which one? This one? Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Good afternoon, and the guests and also colleagues and dear friends. And I just wanted to, on behalf of the FWE, to welcome everybody here, and especially our distinguished speakers, and from the Mobile, from the University Harvard, and from the Beck family. And it is a great pleasure to welcome all of you to today's event, Innovation in Education Through Technology. We are gathered at our country's top university to explore how technology, particularly artificial intelligence, is shaping the landscape of the education and connecting people all around the world. We live in the time where AI is not just a fancy word, but a transformative force that touches every aspect of our lives. AI for good, AI for all. This is FWE's mission. That is the vision we must step for. This means ensure that AI serves humanity by promoting peace, fostering better lives, and people rather than driving them. We do not support the use of AI as a weapon, nor do we endorse its use to discriminate or spread division. We only support AI that opts for beneficial for all of humanity. To realize this vision, we must focus on one critical element: education. Education is not just the pathway to knowledge. It's the form of diplomacy. It bridges culture, fosters collaboration, and lays the foundation for innovation. And good innovation comes from education. And the innovation should always be the cultivating the effort. If we want to know how to use AI effectively, we need good education. Education empowers our children with better judgment, enable them to navigate the world started with AI technologies. But this education must be rooted in strong fundamental, particularly in math and science. AI innovated is based on those disciplines, and without good math and science teachers, we cannot develop our user AI effectively. So far, AI has been controlled by the powerful few. But we believe in AI for all. If we don't make this clear, we risk being lost in AI innovation process. This is a very dangerous game, and we have to understand the stake involved. No one is talking about this, but we are going to address it today. The Forum for World Education is committed to improve public school system, especially in math and science. We need to prepare our students with a strong background in those areas to have a good AI strategy and foster innovation. Supporting our math and science teachers is critical. We believe that by supporting AI innovation, fostering international collaboration, not limited to a single country, and ensure that AI serves education, we can overcome barriers. Education is diplomacy. It unites us in the common goals. Innovation should be the collaborative process that beneficial for all, not just a few self. We need to educate not just on the what of AI, but the how we and why. How can AI be used to enhance learning globally? Why isn't it important to approach AI with critical and our open mind? Education must guide our children to make informed, disciplined decisions, to question, to innovate, and to leading with integrity. This is the mission, the FWE Forum for World Education. We will support AI innovation that advance education. We will encourage collaboration across nations, and we will also advocate for AI to serve as a tool that enhance learning experience by teaching the best and the most effective way to use AI. We prepare the next generation to harness the technology for the great good. Today, we will hear from our leaders in policy and academic and industry, who are the front foot of this transformative journey. They will share insights on how AI can revolutionize education, make it more accessible, inclusive, and innovative for people around the world. And I just want you to know, this forum is extremely important, and to have different people gather together. And also, we want to specifically to welcome the 9 years old and the student to join us. And today, and I have to tell you, and we have 80 years old people like me and 9 years old like Arnold Mark. So let us say we are working together. From the different age and different area, we want to make sure we have the best forum today, and congratulations. Before I'm leaving, I want to present something for our youngest speaker, and because today is his birthday, and we should sing the song to congratulate him and have his birthday. Arnold, please come.
I think exactly just as Dr. Davis said, today we have 80-year
Birthday cake, and we congratulations and happy birthday. And I'm very much proud of you. Okay.
Yeah, please, I think we need a photo here with our 80-year-old and 10-year-old. And then this shows the importance of education. It's really a bridge for us to being together, with regard of where we come from and how old we are. We're all focusing on this. Thank you so much, Dr. Davis, for your wonderful sharing. And I think it's such a delight also hearing that, it's so inspiring to hear, we all gather here, from different age, from different background, and from actually different time zones right now as well, because the next speaker joining us, he's in Abu Dhabi right now, so it's, 12 o'clock, 12 a.m. It's my honor to introduce Matt Dalio, who will be joining us, because we all understand, he's in Abu Dhabi right now, it's 12 a.m., so we will encourage him to share with us at first. Matt is the founder of Endless. He's American, but has lived in China for, I forgot, like about a decade. Is that right, Matt? Who's also fluent in, very good in his Chinese. So it's my honor to introduce Matt, and he will be sharing with you his wonderful project that's bringing technology to communities and supporting younger generation to develop their skill sets in technology advancement through coding, through video games, through gamified education. So welcome, Matt.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. So first, I think it's really fun for me to be back in the Science Center because I remember taking classes in, I believe, that room right there. So really cool to be back. So often when people ask me for the fun fact, you're at a dinner table and people ask for a fun fact. My fun fact was that when I was 11 years old, my parents sent me to China. They stayed in America. I went to live with a Chinese family. I went to an all Chinese school. And it was the domino that set the entirety of my life in motion. And when I was 16, I spent a summer in an orphanage because I wanted to go back and I wanted to get into Harvard, and I had to volunteer. And that became probably the second most formative thing in my life. I ended up working with orphans in China for about 10 years after that, starting a foundation called the China Care Foundation, including a Harvard China Care Club. Um, and that set in motion the purpose of my life. And I want to talk to you about the purpose of my life, because I think it's the reason that we're all in the room today, metaphorically and literally. And it is to make the world a better place at scale, meaningfully at a time when we really, really need it. So I want to do it in the context of looking back in history for a moment, and then I want to look forward in history for a moment, and then I want to look at the present and what it is that we could do today to build a better future. If I usually when I speak, I ask people who thinks the printing press was really important, and everyone's hand goes up. And I'm going to say a controversial statement, which is that the printing press didn't actually change the world as much as people think it did. Um, when the printing press came out, 85% of people lived on farms and worked on farms and had agricultural lives. And hundreds of years later, 85% of people lived on farms and worked on farms and had agricultural lives. Their lives did not change for hundreds of years. It was the Industrial Revolution in the UK, in one country, that set in motion that 85% reversing. And today, it's 2% of people work and live on farms, and the rest of us get to live far better lives that are so different in every possible way because of the Industrial Revolution. So the question is, what is the relationship between the printing press and the Industrial Revolution? And the short answer is that it was literacy. For hundreds of years, literacy did not change across, I mean, it was single digit growth, very slow growth over every European country, except for one country that decided to invest in literacy, and it was the UK. And it was the moment that the UK hit 65% literacy, majority literacy, that the Industrial Revolution happened and the world changed forever. So if you look now at the future, we have this kind of, digital revolution, the industrial revolution that is going on. But if you look at the ability to read and write in software, literacy rates are lower today. In other words, fewer people have fluency in software, true fluency, than had the ability to read and write in the Middle Ages, in the Dark Ages. And so the question is ultimately, how do you spread that fluency? And I want to talk about the stakes of it, because if you fast forward, again, often I see a few of you in the camera, so I'm actually going to ask you the following question, which is, how many of you are more optimistic about the world than pessimistic? In other words, believe that the world is really going to be a better place in so many ways. And then I'm going to reverse the question. But let's first start with that first question. How many of you are really optimistic about the world and feel like it's going in great directions? A few of you.
Yeah.
Okay, flip it around. How many of you are really kind of scared about the direction that the world is going, despite the potential for things to go well, are a little bit scared about the direction the world is going?
Yeah, there's much more hands, I can tell you that, Matt.
So when it comes to that question of, well, what is going to drive the difference between a better world and a worse world? The same question is often asked of AI. Is it going to destroy us all, or is it going to be, the greatest boon to humanity? And people seem to think it's like a roll of the die. Let's just, guess and hope. And I don't believe that it is. I believe that there is one really, really important intervention that if I could spend the rest of my life trying to, like an acupuncture spot, hit the one spot that can unlock a better world, where is it that I should spend my life? And there's one thing that will change everything, which is if the next generation can have jobs in that future, you will have then universal quality of life and contentment and peace and prosperity. And if some people are able to have, in the inverse scenario, jobs, and the vast majority of people do not have the skills to have jobs, you will have anger, you'll have revolution, you'll have war, you'll have civil war, you'll have an unhappy environment. And usually when I do this slide, when I show slides, I show a slide of a video game in the future world, because most depictions of the future are dystopian. In other words, something about us as humanity worries that the world is going to be a scary place. And I want to talk about how it is that we can make it a beautiful place. So how is it that you can train? What would it look like to be able to train every kid in the world in the skills, the digital skills that will make them be able to have a better world? The screen just went. I want to make sure you actually can hear me and see me.
Yeah, we can see you. Perfect.
Perfect. Great. Thank you. So that's what I'm really here to talk about, is how do you build a better world? How do you teach the skills to have the next generation build a better world? And I want to say schools don't know how to do it because schools themselves, the teachers themselves don't have those skills. So how do you teach 2 billion kids who are in between the ages of 10 and 25, the key ages that will define whether they grow up as a generation that has software fluency or not? Just to give you a quick kind of jaunt in how we discovered what we believe is the answer to it. We were building an operating system focused on emerging markets. It's a Linux-based operating system, and it's funny because I actually remember the very first time I ever saw Linux was in the basement of the Science Center. And today, if there are still Linux machines installed there, we have meaningfully shaped the design of those Linux operating systems that are in there and the technology stack. But we had these amazing engineers, and I was really curious how they learned to code. As we were thinking, how could you teach kids in the most rural environments of the world the ability, like the skills that would get them jobs? How would you teach them? And so I asked this question to these engineers, and I discovered that they almost all learned in the same way. And I'll kind of give you a few hints. Microsoft found that 4 out of 5 engineers learned when they were in high school or younger. Well, what was it that kids wanted to do when they were young? The answer was almost universally games. They discovered that they could hack their games, or they discovered that they could build their own games, hack the number of lives or the levels, or they could type in, in the basic, from out of a magazine and build their own games. And it turns out that this is the way that Bill Gates learned to code, and Elon Musk and Mark Zuckerberg and Larry Page and Jeff Bezos. Like, this is the way that so many of the people who made it to the top of the mountaintop learned. So why is it that we as society are not teaching that way? And so I will fast forward to what I believe is 2 insights that I believe have the potential to scale, to universalize fluency across software. Now, when I describe fluency across software, the first thing I want to say is that most people's first thought is code. And by the way, code is changing with AI dramatically. But it's not just code, it's design, it's art, it's management, the ability to manage a team. It's the ability to take a product to market, do a landscape analysis, do the actual marketing, do the data analytics, the whole business side. The process of building and taking a game to market is the process of entrepreneurship with all of the skills within. Tonight, I was at dinner with an architect, and we were talking about digital art equals 3D modeling equals architecture. If you discover you like 3D modeling buildings in video games, you may discover you want to be an architect. So it's many disciplines. And the process of building a game is the act of building it also collaboratively, because all of those disciplines need to coordinate with each other. I often joke that, in the working world, when you look over someone's shoulder, it's called collaboration. And in school, when you look over someone's shoulder, it's called cheating. Like, why doesn't school look more like the working world, where you get to collaborate and you learn that in reality, the real world is all about communication and problem-solving skills and being able to deal with difficult people and get, and get a team aligned. Like these are things that school normally doesn't teach you and yet are the most fundamental skills. If you ask basically anybody in the working world, the most fundamental skills that you can build. Build a game, you will build those skills. And so I'll describe just briefly what we do. But my point here is bigger than what we do. It is about the power of games to engage youth at high school and college level, by the way, which are the most important ages because those are when people are really being prepared for the workforce. Younger than that, it's foundational skills like basic math and basic literacy. But then there's that period where you're like, am I learning the skill that will get me a job? And so in that phase, my main takeaway is, wow, if everyone learned through games, if most engineers learn through games, let's think about how we use games to engage youth in teaching. Another way of putting that statement is that if you ask many people, what's the hardest challenge in education? The answer motivation comes back, engagement. What are games really good at? They're great at engagement. So what does it take to be a virtuoso at something? 10,000 hours. Okay, you want to be a virtuoso at whatever the skill is that you're going to get a job in, spend 10,000 hours doing it. You know how many hours the average kid plays video games by the time they graduate from college? 10,000 hours. So if you can take some of those 10,000 hours and turn it towards productive use where people are learning the skills that will get them jobs, wow. And by the way, the three most successful games in history, Minecraft, Roblox, and Fortnite, have all converged on user-generated content engines. In other words, the player is the creator. Why? Because creation is one of the most delightful things there is, whether it's my kids at 4 years old and 3 years old playing with Legos and Magnetiles, or me as an adult getting to build an enterprise, a little organization and dream up my dreams. And a kid, a teenager, a college student, building their dreams in software in this medium that has come to define a generation. So I'll describe very briefly what we do, which is that we look at the whole path from novice to professional. And at each stage, you have to have interventions. The core of it basically is the same throughout, build games. But I'll describe two main pieces inside of there. The first is 100% of kids can play Minecraft. Almost 100% of kids will bounce off of Unity, which is the most popular game engine in the world, because it is a really complicated professional tool. So the first thing that we had to do was to build a tool that could build the skills for people to be able to go from, I know how to place blocks in Minecraft, to, I know how to build games, and more importantly, because Minecraft doesn't actually have game layer, you can't build real games with health systems and enemy systems and, all of the real gameplay on top of it. So you have to have that to build a real game, but you also have to have the subsystems of how you teach 3D modeling and texturing and coding in a way that's very scaffolded. Someone who designed games might describe it as tutorialized, so that by the time you show up in Unity, it's almost just purely seamless. Because it's built on top of Unity, it actually brings you into Unity very gently and gradually. Now, the second big insight of Endless Studios, which is the company name, was realizing in building a Linux open source operating system, how powerful it is to build things as swarms. When you have a collective of people who are each making their own little micro contributions, you can build massive things. The Linux desktop, if you were to build it from scratch today, would cost $20 billion. Microsoft is worth $3 trillion, and yet all the world's supercomputers, 70% of the world's smartphones, almost all the world's servers run on Linux. So the power of open source is incredible. And the power of an open development methodology where lots of people contribute small things in a very structured and orderly way to some bigger vision, like building a big building. You have lots of people who are working on building the building. That I believe is actually the most scalable way to educate people on professional skills. If you think
Very bad.
Roblox,
We only have 1 minute left. Thank you so much.
thank you for that tap. The last thing I'll say is Roblox has 50 million players inside of it. GitHub has 500 million repos inside, sorry, 50 million games inside of it. And GitHub has 500 million repos. Every person, every one of those 100 million people who are contributing to GitHub is learning how to build software. We could do the same thing with games, getting people into literally GitHub, building games together. That, I believe, is how you could take 1 billion kids through an experience, infinitely scalable experience that teaches them 21st century skills. And we will have a better world when everyone knows how to have a job in that future world.
All right, thank you so much, Matt, for a great midnight speech. It's very exciting, and we do have a great room of applause for you. Thank you for staying with us till midnight and sharing your perspective with us. Thank you so much again.
Thank you for having me. Could I say
Yeah,
one thing with AI just for
please.
30 seconds? All of those pipelines are going to be touched by AI. And everyone's focused on how you use AI as a tool to teach, which is a magic wand and amazing. But the key is to teach people how to use AI as a tool across all of those disciplines. And that will only happen when people are actually creating.
Exactly. That's why we need to make learning interesting and make learning a fun experience. Thank you, Matt, again.
Thank you for
And
having me.
good evening. Yeah, yeah. Have a good and sweet and gaming for dream.
Thank you.
Yeah, we don't have time for question now. Dr. Davis really want to raise up some questions that we can have for Matt, and we can definitely follow Matt's endless his project, the non-for-profit project that he's working on as well. So please do check it out.
Yeah, endlessstudios.com. There's a page called the Vision page, and that will answer most of your questions, I hope.
Thank you so much. And next, well, without further ado, I must introduce this important figure that will be joining us. He needs to join us online as well. He is Secretary Roberto. He joins us from Washington, D.C., as he truly focuses on the importance of how to design the education policies with the influence today we see with the disruptions in technology. So without further ado, please allow me to introduce the Mr. Secretary to join us.
Hi, good afternoon.
Hi.
Wonderful to see you and to be with you. Thank you so much, Angel, for that warm introduction. I'm so thrilled to be part of today's conversation on innovation and educational technology. It's such an important topic for us to discuss today from so many different perspectives. I wish I could be there in Cambridge, there on campus to join you in person. I had the opportunity to be there at the School of Education just recently to talk at the Asquith Forum a bit about some of what we'll be discussing today. I want to thank Dr. Davis for the invitation and to thank the Education World Forum, the Bach Family Foundation, the Harvard College China Forum, and all the partners for hosting today's discussion. And I think it's just wonderful that we're having today's discussion really led by and deeply engaged with young leaders. I talk a lot about the work around deepening change and innovation in our education system from the federal level. And often that's a discussion with policymakers. Sometimes that's a discussion with our leaders in the field, our educators, our leaders in academia. But it always needs to be a discussion that engages our young people, our learners of all ages. I think it's wonderful to have such a celebration of intergenerational learning that we did to kick off today's program, because we are all lifelong learners. And when it comes to thinking about educational technology and its impact and potential for change in education, we all have something to bring to this discussion, regardless of where we approach it and of what age. So thank you for the opportunity to be with you. It's fitting for us to have a conversation here on educational innovation, and I'm happy to ground this from the work we do in Washington, D.C. at the U.S. Department of Education. As I join you, I'm the Assistant Secretary for policy and planning in our department. And our mission at the U.S. Department of Education is to advance student achievement, to support the preparation of all of our learners of all ages for global competitiveness, for success, and to do that by fostering excellence and ensuring equal access to education across the country. And I do that in part because I wouldn't be where I am today if it weren't for education and my belief in education, its potential to change my life and my trajectory as a leader. And we know that education isn't just a tool of diplomacy, as Dr. Davis has acknowledged. It is a pillar of democracy. It is a critical rung on that ladder of opportunity for advancement for all of our learners. We are at an evolutionary time. This has already been noted in our program. We're at an evolutionary time where our economy is being transformed, where we are seeing an emergent digital economy, an innovation economy, and an economy being driven by clean energy. And we are at a time where we need to think about and prepare for that, for an evolution of our education system to match that economic evolution, to better prepare all of our learners for the technologies that they will encounter as they enter college, as they enter the workforce and career, as they endeavor to contribute to their communities, to their society, to the world around us. And so, we know that we have challenges in our education system that sometimes limit evolution, sometimes limit innovation. But I am hopeful that we also have a great opportunity with this evolution. When we see evolutions like this, big things happen. And we're in a moment right now where we are on the verge of big things happening in our education system, in how we teach, in how we engage, in how our students learn in our schools. For us at the Department of Education, that means putting forth a roadmap to help support that big change in our education system. And we've encapsulated that this year in the release earlier this year of our National Educational Technology Plan. I want to invite you all to further explore that plan at our website at www.ed.gov. And our National EdTech Plan frames 3 big divides that we think are critical to bridging and addressing if we're going to expand access for all students. The first is a digital use divide. It's about how we think about students encounter and use technology in their learning and in their lives, in their classrooms. And we want those encounters and that use to be active, to be relevant, to be shaped by the agency of our learners, their interests, their curiosity, their desires. So we want to really bridge that digital use divide in education. The second is we really want to bridge the digital access divide relative to technology and to broadband and connectivity and devices and digital content. For decades, we've unfortunately had this digital divide in our country, which means that not all of our students have had access to the broadband or the technology that they need to be able to succeed. And the pandemic brought that digital access divide front and center for the entire country to witness. Fortunately, 4 years ago, with the passage of the bipartisan infrastructure law, President Biden ushered in a bold investment that was focused on closing that digital access divide. And we partnered with the FCC, our partners in government, to reach 23 million households with the Affordable Connectivity Plan. That was such an important opportunity to provide the discount and the access for our households to get to be able to connect to high-speed broadband. We know we have to do more. We have still too many of our schools, too many of our communities and our homes that aren't connected. And we're disappointed that Congress left behind some of the funding to continue the Affordable Connectivity Plan. But we can't let that get in the way of letting up on our commitment to close the digital access divide for every learner, for every household. And then the final divide here that we've explored in the National Educational Technology Plan is the digital design divide. Because the gap in training, in professional learning, and in support for our educators to effectively integrate technology in their instruction is a gap we have to address. Every teacher needs the opportunity to be equipped to know how to use technology well in their classrooms and in their schools. And so that means expanding professional learning for our teachers, making sure they have the pedagogical strategies that they need to be able to support the number of tools, educational technology tools that are being used in learning today. On average, 148 unique ed tech tools are in the lives of our educators and in the lives of our students each year. And the capability and the capacity of those tools to drive change is enormous. But our teachers need the support to be able to use those tools well. And we have a North Star that guides all of that work, that guides that plan, and that is digital equity. We name that explicitly as equity because we know that all the lessons of the past and how we've tried to drive change in our educational system show us that the system won't correct for equity on its own. It needs to be designed in a way where we can democratize access, use, and success in educational technology for all of our learners. That certainly applies to AI in a major way, right? We are at an evolutionary point, and need to really call forth an all hands on deck approach to addressing AI in education and in our learning, right? The power of the evolutionary leap in AI in terms of technology to aggregate data, to infer patterns, to make decisions, to automate processes. That is a huge leap in evolutionary in technological advancement. And we need a comparable evolutionary leap in how we think about AI in our schools, because it's present in our civic life, it's present in our public life, and it's ascendant at such a rapid pace relative to other evolutionary times in technology. This is why we're animated at the federal level in our policymaking by the blueprint that the president's put forth, which was an executive order last fall to call forth a whole of government approach to address AI effectively across American society. For us, that means to scaffold our conversations at the Department of Education to better build the capacity of our schools, our classrooms, our educators, and our colleges and universities to really help support AI in a way that will maximize the potential for this powerful technology to help engage, support, and transform learning opportunities and minimize the risks that we see around safety, security, privacy. Those are important issues that require policies and attention to be able to address. We're asking the question ourselves of how we can better equip our schools and our districts to set appropriate policies, appropriate guardrails, and appropriate interventions and supports for teachers to embrace and support emergent technologies in our schools. And we want to also better support our developers, our designers, voices like the one we just heard from our entrepreneurs in technology, to think about how they can partner more actively with educators. So much of our ability to integrate AI effectively into education means building a strong foundation of trust. Trust means adhering to our first order principle of humans in the loop, of saying, teachers and students and parents need to be equipped to make the judgment calls to exercise the pedagogical leadership that is required to be able to guide AI in an effective and safe and responsible way in their schools. We know that there is no substitute for great teacher judgment and for great pedagogy in terms of how we think about engaging our students. AI in many ways can be that powerful tool, that booster alongside that judgment to help our students succeed. We think a little bit about an analogy like an e-bike, right? Where we have a human driver like a teacher or a student in control of the experiences, but with greater capacity, with stronger power with AI to be able to raise the bar for engagement, achievement, design, and success, right? And we actually know we need safe e-bikes. We need e-bikes where our developers and our educators know the safe rules of the road, how to operate that bike safely, how to wear that helmet and use their lights and ring that bell as they need to. That requires more deliberative supports to help our students succeed and help our teachers succeed. So we want to double down on that trust to mitigate the potential for misuse or bias or harm at every step of the way, from the early design of tools that are AI enabled to their implementation and their use in schools and classrooms. We want to make sure that we know that trust for our educators, trust for our school leaders means knowing that the safety, security, and privacy of their students is safeguarded. They need to know that. They need to be able to interrogate that with any AI-enabled tool. And trust means that they know that AI has the potential to deepen the instructional core, what we call the connection between student and teacher and content, and really advance how AI can be used in a more transformative and exciting way for teaching and for learning. So we have a number of resources that we're putting forth at the U.S. Department of Education to get there. And they're all available at our website at tech.ed.gov. I invite you to take a closer look at some of those resources, including our AI and the Future of Teaching and Learning report, which our department released just in May of 2023, and sets forth a set of recommendations and principles for including humans in the loop for how we think about AI in education. It includes new resource for EdTech developers. And we believe we have to do more to bridge that gap between those that are developing innovative products, innovative strategies and solutions, and those in our field, our educators and our school leaders who are the consumers of those products and solutions. And this guide that we put forth reminds our developers of their responsibility to innovate with commitments to safety, to security, to trustworthiness in how they think about their tools, and to build on standards of evidence of what we know works in education. We recently just put forth a toolkit at that website for safe, ethical, and equitable AI integration. And that toolkit breaks down a set of modules for our school leaders around how to think about the use of AI in their schools, how to adapt instruction using AI to meet the unique needs and interests of our diverse learners, to provide real-time feedback for educators on how our students are progressing, to consider evidence and evaluation and how we interrogate AI tools in our schools, to build a system-wide strategy for innovation and for continuous improvement using AI. You know, ultimately, the measure of our success here is found in how we strengthen the connection between those that are at the vanguard of technological development, of ed tech and of innovation, and the connection between the experience of our educators, our students, and our parents. And that is why a day like today is so essential, right? That's why I was so excited to join you in this conversation, because it's about learning more about this work from different perspectives across our entrepreneurial community, our philanthropic community, our business community, academia, our education leaders, our policy leaders. And it's going to take all of us It's going to take collaboration across all of those communities to be able to ensure that AI can meet its potential of enhancing learning while aligning to the values and the goals that we all have of equal access for our education system. So, I'll just leave you with this, which is that so many of the conversations that we're having about AI, they involve looking ahead, looking down the road and around the corner at what's to come. So let's not forget that every decision that we make now about AI in our schools, every decision we make about a policy that governs AI in our colleges and our universities or in our K-12 system, that has the potential to either enable or complicate that future down the road. We want to make sure that it enables a brighter future for all of our students. It enables an opportunity to democratize innovation, to democratize the use of tools that will help unleash creativity and learning for our students, tools that will help them engage and get excited about their education and their success. I thank you so much for the chance to be with you, and I wish you a successful conversation and forum this afternoon. Thanks again.
Thank you so much, Secretary Barto. It's a lot of insightful information that you have shared with us that has led us to really take advantage of the resources, the reports that they have produced. So next, as we are having this event at Harvard, we must have a speaker that's coming from home. So it's my honor to introduce Mr. Stu to join us. Mr. Stu is working in Harvard University and is basically developing the overarching technology strategies for Harvard to advance our education here. So, Mr. Stu, the floor is yours.
Thank you.
Let's give him a round of applause. Used it?
Are my slides gonna work?
Okay.
My slides? Are they? Two. We need. Sorry about the delay. Thank you so much for waiting as we troubleshooted. Next, could we welcome Dr. Elijah Bach, who's the co-founder and CEO of Bach Family Foundation and Trust, to deliver his address. Thank you so much. Let's give Dr. Bach a round of applause. Do you need to be here? You want to sit down?
Dr. Davis, Forum for World Education, Harvard College China Forum, ladies and gentlemen. So happy to be here today to speak on a topic that I feel very passionate about, education and philanthropy. Specifically, today I want to talk about how I view the role of technology in education and what I'm doing to maximize its impact as a philanthropist. So I've been told a few times that I look young for my age, and I am young, but I'm old enough to have gone through high school without knowing what the internet was. And I didn't have a cell phone until I graduated from college. Some of you may think that it's crazy because you never had a day in life without an internet. For me, the crazy part is that it hasn't even been that long since I graduated from high school. The rate of advancement in technology in the last 10, 20 years, it has made more changes to our entire humanity than it has in the last 100 years. We see countless young millionaires popping out of everywhere in the world who use technology to educate themselves and have used it to their advantage. You can learn literally anything you want, whenever and from wherever you want. And there are companies like T-Mobile and Dr. King, whom you'll hear from shortly, that provides free access to technology and internet to everywhere, to everyone. And you'll hear also from Ariel, one of my 3 children, taking advantage of this amazing technology that, that gives him free access to all kinds of resources to build a company that solves real world problems and making real money. And he's just turning 10 years old today. I have gone to 5 graduate schools. And for a couple of them, I have never set a foot on campus until my graduation day because everything was online. I completed my entire doctoral dissertation without touching a physical book once. Everything, all of the sources and references were online, and I read them all as a digital file, and I could have gotten all of them for free at the public library. I know for students of you, you are using all the AI tools like ChatGPT and Perplexity to summarize all of your assigned readings. And more professors are encouraging you and allowing you to use them to assist with your assignments and papers. A child in a remote village in India can learn from the same materials as my children in New York City. An adult learner juggling work and family responsibilities can continue their further education on their own schedule from the comfort of their home. Now, I do recognize that technology alone is not a panacea. There are still significant challenges around this digital divide that Secretary just mentioned about for a variety of reasons and individual circumstances. However, as someone who came to America as a homeless teenager and having gone through the journey to be where I am today, I can tell you that there are no excuses and there are no negative side effects to education and hard work under any circumstances. And I will say that we all should aspire to set a higher bar for ourselves and trying to achieve it, rather than lowering them in the name of inequity and inequality. This is where I believe that my work as a philanthropist has a critical role to play. As some of you know, my foundation's mission is to empower all parents with evidence-based educational resources so that they can make better informed decisions in their daily parenting practices. Education is a $1 trillion industry worldwide, and the overwhelming majority of the focus is on teachers and students, and they do need all the support they can get. However, the research is very clear that it's the parents who make the biggest impact on every aspect of children's development and school performances, and there is hardly any support or policy on parent education. I believe that in order to maximize the benefits of this incredible technology and enormous amount of education resources we have, we need to better utilize this global parent population who has direct access and the biggest impact on their children by educating them properly. Even though my foundation is reaching approximately 500 million families worldwide by working directly with ministers of education in over 70 countries, the impact I'm making now is not effective enough for me. So I'm currently organizing a global scale conference in collaboration with a few UN agencies, OECD, the World Bank, regional banks, teachers union, NGOs, private foundations and corporations, where I'm trying to bring in every minister of education from every member country of the UN in one place for them to sign a universal agreement on parent education, where they will commit to implement a national policy in their countries to educate parents with the resources that I provide for them. Obviously, it's an ambitious goal, and I honestly don't know if it can be done or not. What I do know for sure is that it will never happen unless I give it a try. I'm very motivated to do this because I genuinely believe that if parents are better informed, they are able to guide their children to have better future. That I know for sure, regardless of their parents' educational or socioeconomic backgrounds. I'm literally experimenting it with my own children by only pointing them to the right direction without giving them any financial resources to see what they can accomplish on their own. I'm seeing that result at home now, and you'll hear more about it from Aria later in the panel presentation. In closing, I truly believe that we're at a point where technology has a potential to dramatically expand educational access and opportunity. Realizing this potential will require sustained strategic investment and collaboration. As a philanthropist, I have the privilege and responsibility to help shape a future where quality education is truly accessible to all, regardless of background or circumstance. But I also know that I cannot do this alone. So I ask for all of your support and collaboration. In doing so, I believe we can truly maximize our impact and help create a more equitable and empowering education landscape for generations to come. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Ba. I remember the first time I met Dr. Ba, he was talking about the philanthropic work that he's been doing with international organizations, and I think that was inspiring. But what most inspiring is his actually the effort and love that he put into educating his children into our youngest speaker today. As Dr. David said, we have our speakers today range from 80 to 10 years old. Happy birthday. So that I think this really brings a specific view to our forum today, is because that education make this possible. Like I said, a great Harvard event cannot happen without a home address. So now let's welcome Mr. Stu from Harvard University to give us this speech.
Thank you. We're going to try again. Oh, we did it. That's awesome. All right. Perfect. Thank you. Okay. Need my slides. Thanks for bearing with us. Good morning, everyone. Again, my name is Stu Sneidman, and I'm the Associate University Librarian and Managing Director for Library Technology here at Harvard. I am delighted and honored to speak to you today on behalf of Klara Jelenkova, our Vice President and Chief Information Officer, who unfortunately couldn't be here due to illness, and she sends her regrets. Nevertheless, I will do my best to reflect her thoughts and mine about Harvard's approach to AI and intelligent technologies in education, which is actually, I feel badly that she got sick, but I'm so excited to be here because this is a topic of great interest to me, and one that has profound potential to shape how we teach, conduct research, and manage our educational organizations. So, of course, we could not do a talk like this without asking AI for a little help. So we fed our slides and talking points into OpenAI's DALL-E image generator, and this is the result. Now, don't get me wrong. I am a huge advocate and enthusiast for AI's potential in education. I just wish it could do a better job at spelling. But of course, this is an important and complex topic, evidenced by today's speakers and wonderful agenda, as education sits at the very intersection of technology and societal progress. AI offers transformative opportunities, but also introduces risks and concerns that deserve our collective attention. Harvard is committed to exploring these opportunities and risks thoughtfully, with a goal of leveraging AI's potential to improve learning outcomes and enable globally impactful research. So Harvard's approach to AI is twofold. We want to, of course, contribute to research on the societal impact and productive applications of AI. And second, we want to thoughtfully integrate these technologies into our own local educational practice here at Harvard. Examples of Harvard's investment in this space include the Kempner Institute for the Study of Natural and Artificial Intelligence, which is dedicated to advancing foundational AI research, and the Harvard Data Science Initiative, which conducts AI-enabled research and offers essential computing resources to faculty and students across disciplines. The Berkman Klein Center for Internet and Society leads critical thinking on the policy implications of AI, helping to shape guidelines that not only inform our practices here at Harvard, but also influence broader policy discussions around AI, about AI globally. Harvard's investment in AI seeks to balance technical innovation with the responsible, ethical, and safe integration of these tools into our academic enterprise. So, despite the fact that AI has been part of our lives for a really long time, it was the release of ChatGPT in November 2023 of generative AI that signaled kind of an inflection point that not only generated an awful lot of buzz, but also signaled the need for academia and all industries for that matter to take a more intentional and proactive approach. It quickly became apparent here at Harvard that we needed to provide clear guidance to students, faculty, and staff as these powerful tools became widely accessible at the fingertips of everyone and beyond the domain of computer scientists and tech companies. So in the summer of 2023, shortly thereafter, Harvard's first steps were to issue foundational guidance to our community to support safe and responsible AI. This was our first priority. The guidance emphasized, among other issues, and there are many, protecting data privacy, respecting intellectual property, upholding academic integrity, and ensuring that we acquire AI tools that have guardrails and safety for safety and security and privacy. Okay, so what are we doing here at Harvard to enable and educate our community? So a first and very high impact step was the launch of what we're calling the AI Sandbox. It's a chatbot, very ChatGPT-like tool that allows faculty, students, and staff to experiment with various AI models provided by a variety of companies, including OpenAI, Microsoft, Google, Meta, Anthropic. Now, the two key distinguishing features of this sandbox are first, it gives the user the ability to try and switch between various models to learn their relative strengths and weaknesses. And second, and quite importantly, ensuring that the data and the conversations that are entered into the system are not used to train commercial or public language models. Basically, the goal here was to create a safe and private space for experimentation and learning. This has been really a major and transformative initiative with the intent to provide broad access to AI at Harvard, enabling safe AI exploration across the community. During this period, we've also lots of other activity. We've tried to provide free or discounted access to commercial tools like Microsoft Copilot and ChatGPT, and have hosted a variety of amazing programs and learning opportunities just like this one. Okay, so while there's been this groundswell of creative and innovative work at Harvard from students, faculty, and staff alike, Harvard, like many institutions, felt compelled to put an organizational structure in place to coordinate our work and coordinate it across three dimensions. One, innovation in teaching and learning. Two, innovation in research. And three, innovation in the administration of this complex organization. So 3 subcommittees were built, consisting of university leadership, faculty, and staff, each reporting to a central AI steering committee that is led by senior university leaders. So Harvard is a highly distributed institution, as you all know, where 1,000 flowers are let to bloom quite effectively. But this structure has actually been quite successful at helping to coordinate and providing a little bit of lightweight governance of AI activities across different university areas and domains. And importantly, it's signaled broad support for the work happening at all corners of Harvard. Okay, so one of the most promising areas of AI integration at Harvard is in the practice of teaching. Across the university, faculty are creatively employing AI to enhance classroom experiences. And we've created a showcase of faculty uses of AI in the classroom, described in their own words through video vignettes. And I invite you to browse at the URL on this slide. Faculty talk about how they use AI as a collaborative partner in problem solving, like Matt mentioned, to create and gamify education, and even using ChatGPT to help interpret student feedback. During these still very early days, Harvard's also invested heavily in supporting faculty learning and experimenting with AI through professional development programs provided by the Vice Provost in Advances of Learning, and the Bach Center for Teaching and Learning. Through these and other school-based support structures, graduate students and faculty are receiving the support and resources they need to harness innovative new technologies in the classroom that are tailored to their specific domains and disciplines. Raise your hand if you heard the term tutorbot. Tutorbot? A few. Okay, this is a new one to me, but one of the more innovative ways Harvard faculty are using AI in the classroom is through these tutorbots, which serve as around-the-clock trained expert assistants for students in classes. Tutorbots can explain material, they can aid in understanding challenging concepts, and they allow instructors to maximize time for interactive and team-based learning activities in the classroom. Examples abound of tutorbot development, the cleverly named StatGPT for statistics courses, a tutorbot designed to provide targeted stats help outside of the regular class hours. Another example is PS2Pal that was developed for gateway physics courses. And this one is interesting because it was the subject of a small study that intended to try to measure tutorbot impacts on learning outcomes. And as shown in the chart on the slide, the use of AI-powered tutorbots appears to improve student outcomes, with post-test scores in the AI-assisted environment surpassing both baseline and lecture-based learning. So these results suggest, one study suggests, the potential of AI to create more personalized and engaging learning experiences to the benefit of both the student and the professor. So, of course, AI also has an immense potential impact to stimulate innovation in research, a big part of our work here at Harvard. And Harvard's investing heavily to support researchers and enable them to integrate AI into their research practice. The Kempner Institute and Harvard Data Science Initiative provide foundational resources, especially in the form of compute power, GPUs, to support interdisciplinary research using AI. The William F. Milton Foundation, administered through the Office of the Vice Provost for Research, developed an AI track that funded 12 projects that used AI to help address societal and global challenges. The Generative AI College Program funded 30 faculty-led projects that involved 50 undergraduates doing AI-related summer research. So a lot of work, a lot of effort to activate AI-based research at Harvard. Okay, now I want to pivot to some insights on student use of AI. So in the fall of 2024, the Harvard Library's User Research Center, an incredible resource here at Harvard, conducted a survey involving approximately 250 undergraduate and graduate students. The study aimed to explore students' usage patterns and attitudes toward AI in academic settings and provide some pretty compelling insights into how these emerging technologies are shaping student behaviors and perspectives in higher education. So the first set of insights I want to share, and I'm going to pivot to a very busy slide with some of the data, just so you can see the data, relates to the popularity of AI tools and how frequently they are used compared to what we might consider more traditional tools. It's amazing that I'm going to call Google a traditional tool, but it's a traditional tool now. So, of course, Google remains the most popular tool for academic work, used almost daily by many students. ChatGPT, though, is gaining traction. Students report that they use ChatGPT nearly as frequently as, again, these traditional tools like Wikipedia and Google Scholar, and even our own library catalog, Hollis. Most students use ChatGPT for academic work. They report they use ChatGPT for academic work at least once a week. Students report using ChatGPT primarily for quick answers to clarify concepts and do brainstorming. As a librarian, I was quite comforted to learn that students are not yet inclined to use ChatGPT to find resources for their work. They are finding those specific research tools with clever names like Perplexity and Research Rabbit to help them find sources. Okay, so second set of insights relates to student trust and the perceived value of AI. And while students appreciate ChatGPT for its time-saving benefits and ease of use, also comforted to know that they approach it with caution for more critical tasks. Most students avoid using ChatGPT for original writing or when it's seen as compromising academic integrity or against the rules, preferring instead to meet with teaching assistants or librarians or others for in-depth support. This perspective reinforces what Secretary Rodriguez mentioned, the human in the loop, or the importance of human expertise, especially in areas where critical thinking, originality, and personalized guidance are essential. So in sum, while AI tools like ChatGPT and others offer practical advantages in streamlining quick information and brainstorming, students continue to rely on trusted resources and personal guidance for more substantial academic work. This is good news so far. Now the bad news, AI's dark side, which we hear about often and see regularly in the popular media almost daily, it seems. But I want to talk about risks in academia, because as AI technologies advance, their potential risks become increasingly relevant in academic settings, where the integrity, accuracy, and accessibility of information is paramount. A few key AI-related risks to talk about. One, again, misinformation and deepfakes. AI can create realistic yet false information, making it challenging to verify authenticity. There's a high risk that falsified content may circulate as credible evidence or data, which may mislead researchers and the public. Two, bias and fairness. AI algorithms are susceptible to inherent biases, often reflecting skewed data, the wrong data, or developer assumptions. This can lead to biased academic insights, affecting research outcomes and limiting the diversity of perspectives. Third, privacy concerns, big one. AI-driven data analysis frequently requires large data sets, which can expose personal and sensitive information. In academia, privacy risks are heightened when student, faculty, and research data are involved. Fourth, intellectual property and plagiarism. This one's important to me. They're all important to me. AI tools that generate content blur between the line, and AI tools that generate content blur the lines between original work and algorithmically generated material, raising concerns about ownership and originality. This risk complicates academic publishing, authorship, and intellectual property. Finally, and maybe this is the most concerning, the erosion of critical thinking. With increased reliance on AI, and this has been happening before AI, where AI has been with us for a very long time, so we see it with social media, but with increased reliance on AI for quick answers and automated research summaries, there's a risk of reduced engagement in critical analysis and independent thought, and this is deeply concerning. So I want to conclude. I want to go back to another image generated by AI, and something has happened in 15 minutes. It seems like the spelling has improved, so I want to end on an optimistic note. But this illustration intends to capture Harvard's approach well, a balance between fostering innovation and upholding academic integrity. AI offers extraordinary potential to transform education, but we're only at the beginning of the journey. It's early. Harvard's vision is to harness these technologies thoughtfully, advancing education while staying true to our academic values. It's a careful balance between pushing the boundaries and ensuring that we do so responsibly and ethically. Thank you for letting me step in and join this amazing conference. Have a great rest of the day.
Thank you very much, Stu. I think I saw a lot of people were taking photos of the slides while you're giving the speech, because I think it's very important for us to understand AI on also its influence and the work that Harvard is doing, so we can reflect on that and also working on that in other sectors. So next, I'm going to introduce to you Dr. King. Dr. King is the head of education for T-Mobile, who's really utilizing technology in order to advance, especially serving also the communities. So please.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. I'm so excited to be speaking here today and super honored. Who wouldn't be, right? So if ChatGPT can learn how to spell in 15 minutes, surely I can say something insightful to each of you. My name is Dr. Keisha King. I am the head of education for T-Mobile, and I lead all of our education strategy nationally. This conversation was so interesting and was so important to me is that it's framed up, if we're talking about kiddos, I want to make sure you know what I know about kiddos. And so I've been a teacher, I've been a principal, I've been an executive director of curriculum and technology integration in a school district of about 70,000 kids in my career. And those kiddos were around 90% economically disadvantaged. That means that I have a very unique purview on the conversation today. It also means a lot to me because I'm a first generation college graduate as a part of the Upward Bound program and a bunch of other programs and a bunch of really amazing educators who helped me kind of frame up which direction I wanted to go in my life. So that's a big piece of today's conversation. I want to start off with a story, and it's so interesting because my son, I have a 13-year-old, and he's in 8th grade, and we had a conversation a couple of weeks ago. And after swim, he says, "Mom, I have this project to do. It's a book project, and I totally forgot," which is common for 13-year-olds. And so after we left swim practice, we get home, and he sits down, and he starts working on this project. And I said, "Well, just bring it to me when you're ready for me to take a look at it, and I'm happy to tell you how you're doing." And so he brings it over to me about 45 minutes later, and the illustrations are beautiful. I mean, he has drawn out this picture of this heart and these other kind of pieces of different scenes in the story, and he's really excited. And in this instance, he actually read the book, so I was excited about that too. And so my son is definitely an intellectual. He is so much fun. And so he comes in, he shows me this thing, and I'm like, "Oh my gosh, Aaron, that looks so good. You killed it." And I start reading the work, right? And I'm reading it, I'm like, this is really good. This is like college level good. And obviously he has learned the power of AI in the time that, the last time I read one of his papers. And so we start talking, and so I didn't say, "Oh, well, this is definitely not your work." So we start talking, and I said, "So right here it says that the character lost his best friend, and he because of an argument, and so he's really upset because he lost his best friend because of an argument. Tell me a little more about that." And I said, "I see here you drew a heart, right? And the heart is bleeding because he lost his best friend." And he says, "Actually, in the book, he lost his best friend because of an argument, and he was really happy he lost his best friend because it was a toxic friendship." And he said, and so really the bleeding heart piece of that actually corresponds to just him losing different friendships in his lifetime, but then coming around and, building these new friendships. And I said, "Well, one thing I want you to understand, is as we read through this, you're going to find other areas that probably aren't necessarily completely correct to how you interpreted that book, right?" And I said, "Tell me a little bit about how you generated the content." And then we got into the AI conversation, right? And I was able to tell him, AI is exponentially able to help you, but it will never have the ability to be you. And there is a certain special aspect to his own curiosity and his own creativity that I need to make sure that I'm nurturing as a parent, that we have to make sure that we're nurturing as professionals in the children that we serve. And so I just want to start off with that story. There's something that Sir Ken Robinson said, and it talks about the power and the importance of creativity. Creativity is just as important as literacy. When we think about building literacy in children, it's just as important that we're building creativity. And so AI has the opportunity to enhance literacy in a very special way, right? And encouraging children to leverage AI is a really special and unique thing too. But there is no replacement for helping a child understand the capability and the extent of their own creativity. And so I just want to start there. I know that I'm here for the corporate perspective, But as a corporate leader, that's something that's been really critical to the work that I do and why I have made a choice to transition my career to lead how we think about serving populations and how we think about supporting students from a corporate perspective, right? So I hope that's helpful to you. I want to pivot just a little bit and talk about why innovation in the future workforce is so critically important to someone like T-Mobile. T-Mobile is, as of today, the #1 most profitable telecommunication company in the world. That's like, what? Are you sure? Yes, I'm sure. That is really a thing. I remember, there was a time when I was like, T-Mobile? I don't know. The pink is pretty, but, right? And today, that's changed exponentially. It's so exciting to be a part of this company. And if any of you are any T-Mobile users in the house? Right. If any of your T-Mobile users, you've seen the change and you've seen the difference in the power of the investments that we've made as a company. So innovation is critical, from safety and security to how we think about Internet of Things, to how we're driving artificial intelligence and VR, AR technologies, to how we think about autonomous driving vehicles and smart cities. Artificial intelligence is key to all of those components. And when we talk through the education ecosystem, the question is, what does it take to come full circle with how we're supporting students? So everything that Assistant Secretary was talking about, everything that Dr. Beck was just mentioning, and the things that you've heard today, they all have to be powered by something, right? Even our conversation that we're having, the screen, the different technologies, all the phones and the cameras in the room, they all have to be powered by something, and usually it's some type of broadband infrastructure. And so that's a critical part of the conversation that I want to have with you. There are 3 things that are super important to T-Mobile. One, and I should probably say me, because no matter where I am, they're going to stay critically important to me. The first thing is private-public partnerships. That's really important to us. And so I want to talk a little bit about that. The next one is strategic investment. And the third one is public policy advocacy. From a perspective of strategic investment, I'll just kind of start there. The first thing that we've made it a point to do is build up rural area infrastructure to make sure that students in rural areas have critical access that they need for broadband technology. Another thing that we've done is say, okay, well, as a part of us purchasing Sprint, we are going to invest $10.7 billion into education. What does that mean? That means that every single student that qualifies for free and reduced lunch in our country, up to 10 million students per household, can receive 1 hotspot at no cost and 5 years of 100 gigs of internet access. That is a really dynamic commitment. And being an educator and having a part in building that program and leading that program across the country, I was able to come in and say, well, what if the student's a 12th grader? What does that mean? Do they still get 5 years? Because if it's a K-12 program, right? But we know that students don't miraculously get rich when they get to higher education, despite popular belief, right? They still have a need for access to tools and resources. And so even in the 12th grade, a student gets 5 years of no-cost internet access with that commitment. And that's really exciting too. The next thing is the power of private-public partnership. And working with over 5,000 school districts, sitting next to them, talking about the things that they want to have solved, the conversations that they're having across their communities, and how they foster creativity through bridging the digital divide. That's been a really critical part in helping us to learn and helping to share a lot of the learnings that we want to put out there. And so the third thing is policy advocacy. One thing that Assistant Secretary Rodriguez mentioned is the Affordable Connectivity Program. That program sunset this year. 23 million people were on that program. And so with that program sunsetting, it means that 23 million people are now left without the critical connectivity that they needed. What about the Emergency Connectivity Fund directly to students through their campuses? 18 million students. That was sunset this year too. And so yes, while there have been some things that have been put into play through policy, there are a lot of gaps there. We have the Digital Equity Competitive Grant that was released, $1.25 billion. That was so exciting for everyone to submit their applications and be a part of that. Well, we received $8 billion in requests. What does that tell us about the demand right now with regard to making sure connectivity is available for every single person in this country, right? Having connectivity makes all the difference. Your ability to Google a random thought, just think about that. It's not just for the academic purposes of it. It's to say, if my bicycle is broken, how do I fix that? It's me acknowledging that my daughter learned how to play piano on YouTube alone, right? And there are so many aspects of having access that changes the way you see the world. And that's something that I know I want to be a part of, and I'm sure every person in this room wants to be a part of. And so policy advocacy is a really big part of this. This year, also, the E-rate program. Is anyone familiar with E-rate? It's an education technology program that runs through K-12 public schools and libraries. And so it's available for library patrons, and they just expanded it to wireless hotspot checkout. And so that's something specifically coming from the FCC saying, hey, we want to provide some element of access to students outside of the traditional school day. And so I believe that as corporations, we have a responsibility to make sure that we're engaged in those three critical components: strategic investments, right? And so $10.7 billion to bridge the digital divide is just the start. Connecting 10 million folks through a corporate initiative is amazing, but what are all the other corporations required to do? What are we asking Apple to do? What are we asking Google to do? And we sit alongside our friends at those companies all the time and talk about, how do we come together and solve things, right? The next thing, the private-public partnerships. How do we sit down with our school districts and solve the things that they actually need? How do we talk about AI in a way where it makes sense for students to actually use it? When you think about students using technology, I always think about a room full of kids. And there was a time when I was speaking to some kiddos and I said, if you had access to all the information in the world and you can ask for anything, what would it be? And no one said to cheat on my English paper. The answers were to solve world hunger, to, eliminate homelessness. They wanted to solve big ticket issues. And so as we come in, that's one thing that Sir Ken Robinson said. When we used to walk in a room, we had to light something to make the lights come on. Then eventually you had to flip a switch. And now you walk in and what happens? The lights just come on, right? AI is not something that we're trying to solve for students. It's something that we're trying to help them to utilize in a way where they can solve those really big, difficult problems that they really want to solve. And it's so much bigger than cheating on an English paper, right? And so I'm excited to be on this side of the equation. I'm excited to help solve some of the things that are happening across our country for kiddos. And I believe that every single corporation across the globe has a responsibility to do the exact same thing. So thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Dr. Kim, for sharing. I think it's so heart-touching as well to hear that your personal perspective, your personal story that has evolved, along the way of how it affects you educating your children as well. So thank you again for all the keynote speakers. Actually, the next we're gonna jump right into our panel. Our first panel will be focusing on education and founders. So the panelists that will be joining us are all founders in this area on AI and education. And the panel host is a great friend of mine who's also a Bloomberg AI reporter. So I assume that you definitely is already experienced in this topic. So welcome, Jane, to the stage and introduce your panelists.
Thank you, Andrew, for the introduction, and thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for joining us. Maybe the panelists, maybe we can just take their seats, and I will give the floor to you and to make the self-introduction. Ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. Welcome to our panel discussion about how AI can drive innovative solutions in education. I'm Jane, and I'm currently a Knight Science Research Fellow at MIT. I was a Bloomberg AI reporter in Hong Kong for years before I came to Boston. It's really a pleasure to have this panel discussion and have all of you here. And today we're diving into the transformative power of AI, into how it's reshaping the education experience and disrupt the education landscape. And we're honored to have panelists from different backgrounds and different ages, and as you can see. And maybe let's kick off by giving, each of us gave a brief self-introduction about what do you do, your personal stories. Will.
Sure. Thank you for inviting me. My name is Will Lee. I'm the co-founder CEO of TutorOcean and QuadC. So TutorOcean is actually online tutoring a platform combining human tutors and AI. It's become a leading platform in the market today. And QuadC is it's really geared towards higher education, helping students to be successful and keep that retention through the AI. The reason, a bit of background myself, I grew up in a very different environments. I had very limited access to knowledge, education until age 13. But I was incredibly lucky to be supported by two amazing tutors to help me to learn, allow me to catch up my life. So in that journey, really is an example of Dr. Benjamin Bloom's 2 Sigma problem. So what that is he stated that students who are supported by one-on-one tutoring performs significantly better. So how better? It's actually 2 standard deviations better. So in the math statistic point of view, which means the person who received one-on-one tutoring performs 98% better than its peers. So because of that, my personal experience, I created this company's vision is to create something extremely scalable, cost-effective, innovative way for people to change their lives for just like the experience that I have faced. So thank you.
Ariel?
First of all, thank you all for having me today. My name is Ariel Bach, and I am currently a 6th grade student in New York City. I am also the co-founder and CEO of Bach Bros Studio, which is a recent company I have started with my younger brother, Ellis. Bach Bros Studio is an educational media and technology company where we provide the access and the application of the complex research to the general public. We do this by getting kids to interview these prominent professors from all around the world in our studio so that the professors can explain their complex research in a simple way. We then record this conversation and post it on all social media channels, such as YouTube, Instagram, and TikTok, as well as on our own app, which is currently our MVP, so that everyone can easily access and benefit from this complex research. This approach solves 3 real problems. First, the professors and researchers who work really hard to publish their research are struggling to get the general public to know about their research, which raises a serious question about the value of academic research. Second, the general public doesn't even know about the existence of this valuable research, and even if they do know about it, it's too complicated for them to understand. And third, the millions of people, especially children, spend countless hours on social media watching meaningless content that has no value to their lives. We believe what we are doing at Bach Bros Studio is addressing these problems, and we hope to make a good impact in the world. And we also hope to make profit through our business model and hope to grow worldwide.
Wow, that's very impressive. You're putting a lot of pressure on every one of us. Mina?
Yes, that is truly amazing and a very hard act to follow. I am speechless, and I want to work with you, and I hope I want to hang out with you. Seriously.
Me too.
Amazing. Really good work. So I'm Meena Sonia. I am the CEO of Aspire Institute. It is a nonprofit co-founded by two Harvard Business School faculty members. And it came out of the idea, and it was their idea essentially. And I used to work at Harvard prior to leaving Harvard to run this nonprofit. But they came to me and said, you know, Meena, we are sitting here at this amazing location that is so filled with privilege. And there are students here who are from first generation, low income. They have somehow made it to Harvard. And that's like just a minute percentage of students who are here and will benefit from what Harvard has to offer and the resources we as faculty give to our students. But there are over 200 or 300 million students who are equally talented, but will never have the same access. And they said, we need to do something about that because we're losing talent. And so with that in mind, we spun out of Harvard and established Aspire Institute. And what we do is from 2022, which was our first year, we went global. We went online because we knew that's one way we can reach students. We could reach the last mile and then bring them and connect them to world-class faculty, not just at Harvard, but globally. And so that's the program we generated. And it wasn't any domain focus. It was essentially saying, what do these students really lack? If you come from a low-income, first-generation family, two things that are missing: your access to resources and access to networks. And so how can we enable our students, give them that opportunity to become leaders in their lives and in their communities? So that's how Aspire was founded. And now we're in 195 countries. We're reaching 200,000 students. And our goal in the next 3 years is to reach 1 million students annually. And we have no idea how we're going to do it. But we also know we've got Kareem Lakhani, who you may have seen. Stu had put his book up. He's one of our co-founders who works at HBS, and Professor Tarun Khanna, who teaches strategy and entrepreneurship. So those two powerhouses, myself and a team of 10, we are ready to take this challenge on. And we're going to need help from all of you, including you.
That's fascinating, fascinating ideas and really ambitious goals. And another speaker is going to join us by Zoom, Dr. Nanette Tennis, and she's teaching at Harvard. Nanette, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Lynette Tannis. I'm super excited to be here with you, even virtually, in this space. I am on faculty at the Harvard Graduate School of Education, where I teach a course that I designed titled Educating Incarcerated Youth, Practice, Research, Policy, and Advocacy. My family is originally from Trinidad, and them coming to the United States in the late 1960s, my father of African descent, my mother of Indian descent, recognized very quickly that skin color, race, zip code, all of those things matter. And so education was always a priority for them and for us. And so growing up, for me, I knew that I always wanted to be a teacher because I experienced school in private schools with folks who didn't look like me and recognized that the expectations really differed depending on where a person lived or the access that they had. And so it was interesting that I served in multiple capacities as teacher, school leader, district administrator, all of that. And it was in 2009 when I was accepted to Harvard to work on my doctorate that I started thinking about children that we don't see every day and thinking about our incarcerated youth population and what does their education look like? How are principals and teachers being trained and supported to be their very best to help our arguably most marginalized population? And I realized even then a grave injustice continues to exist. And so for me, it is my goal, for sure, my hope is that every child whether free or incarcerated, will receive the high quality education they deserve. And definitely AI continues to have some very promising elements to help make this sort of smoother, easier, better, smarter. And so I'm just looking forward to having this conversation with you all today.
Thank you. Thank you all for the introduction. I think every one of us are now so curious about like more details about what you guys are doing and more your insights about like how AI is going to disrupt the education industry. Lynette, maybe we can start with you, and based on your teaching experience at Harvard, like how do you say like AI is going to change the traditional education models, and what are the potential challenges and opportunities brought by generative AI? Because we just heard a keynote speech, and we have like heated discussion on campus about how to use chatbot, how to use ChatGPT like AI services. Of course, some courses, they really welcome students to use AI, but in some courses, the teachers may not say it as that useful. So I really want to say your insights based on your experience.
Sure, thank you. I feel like Stu did an exceptional job of sort of covering that piece. I guess I'll further contribute. Part of the other work that I do also is supporting like school leaders, district, state leaders, et cetera. And I would say for sure, especially within the last year or two, some extremely innovative school systems, charter management companies, et cetera, have really utilized AI to get even more in depth in terms of like feedback and support to school leaders and to teachers. One area when you speak with educators nationwide, across the board, for the most part, a common theme is they don't receive enough feedback, or like folks aren't really coming into their classrooms necessarily. That's not the case. There are some like really, really great things happening in some places, but for the most part, we're not providing our young people, our learners, with important feedback to help them grow and develop. And it's kind of like the same way. I think of the title, if you don't feed the teachers, they'll eat the children, right? It's the same way. Like if people are not properly fed and given that feedback, how do they grow and improve? And so one way, for example, with AI is, we developed focus groups for students, for families, for staff, as a way to give feedback to the school leaders, in addition to just sort of their regular self-assessment for their evaluation tool. And to be able to feed that in and to have AI actually, the chatbot, share out the feedback, of course, has to be, read through and all of that, but that has exponentially changed, even just time-wise, what folks are now able to do. And so in the same way, teachers have incorporated that with feedback to students. And so things that used to take a lot of time, and like I would say overall people had the heart for, we know it's important, but it's like, there's so much I have to do. Providing that feedback has been really helpful. And then secondly, and again, this is also something Stu mentioned, but I'll just mention as well, is just in terms of the creative piece, like you don't have to be, even if you're planning on a team, the fact that you can have that expertise in terms of creating even more engaging lessons and more relevant lessons that meet standards and also meet our human sort of nature to be engaged. I think those are two really important ways that has helped significantly propel some school districts and spaces.
Thanks, Lynette, for sharing your perspective. Well, I know your platforms cooperate with so many different universities across the world, including Harvard. Harvard is also one of your clients. I want to ask you, how do you say like AI has changed like schools, and how AI has changed universities, and how AI has changed students to interact on your platforms?
Thank you. So I will provide some learnings, findings from what, as EdTech company vendors' point of view. So there are two fundamental things we're trying to addressing. One is that for students, you may know that you have a lot of questions mostly at nights and weekends when humans are not available. Okay, so for the institution, they have a challenge where it's difficult for institutions to maintain and retain the knowledge of those peer tutors, peer advisors, and mentors, because especially it's so true in the two-year community colleges in the US and Canada, and because there's such a quick churn every 2 years. So based on those two foundational challenges we've seen, we introduced AI tutor for students and AI co-pilot for faculty and educators. So here are some findings we discovered over the last year and a half. So we introduced our first AI tutor about a year and a half ago. What happens is that the moment we release our products, we've seen drastic increase in the engagement from the student side. So from today, if you look at today, about 12-month period of time, our usage of AI tutor is almost 10 times. So that means our queries every single day, every single hour, minutes, it's just from last year this time, it's increased 10 times. Okay? What also means is this, is that it actually helps, augments human tutors, human teaching, because students, I found that able to interact with AI maybe more freely, more intimately, because AI has no stigma. So students willing to talk to the AI, working any point of time. And that actually drives for them to seek for help for the human tutors. So I see AI is now replacing our humans and teaching and learning. It's actually augments. It's really complementary to that. Now, from the teacher's point of view, educator point of view, in the beginning, we have a lot of fear, strong fear. Okay, what have happened? My intellectual properties, actually, Stu mentioned that our contents, our working contents, it got stolen. What happens if students use it for cheating? Now, what we have done a couple of things is that, we said, how about this? How about we give you more of a private instance, a well-guarded environments for faculties, institutions to upload, ingest your contents. It doesn't matter what kind of formats of your formats. Could be video, podcast, text files, anything, right? We take it, we process that, and actually also incorporate your teaching style. Every faculty members, educators have their own way of teaching. How about we take that instruction and create an AI assistance so that this AI bot, AI assistance, is course-specific, curriculum-specific to that course, to that faculty members. So this way, it, one, solves the problem of IP. Second, it creates much better engagement from the students, because now the students, instead of go to ChatGPT, Clues, to ask for public contents information, they can have a more private, proprietary, content-specific instance to ask super hyper relevant information. So that's what we found. And lastly is I think I'm so glad to see Harvard's experiments there. So we also discovered something. We started releasing. We platform is we combine all the frontier models in one box, including your own proprietary models, because we have our own light footprints models. And also, any schools, we encourage every single schools we work with to come up with their own instance, your own light footprints or LLMs, so that you can incorporate all of them into one box, so that it can provide an unbiased point of view. And now we see the students use that every single day because they can fact check, they can get broader perspective as one single instance. So that's something we have discovered so far. Thank you.
Yeah. Tutor bot, that's really the future. I really wish I have a tutor bot when I was in college. I should have done much better with that. Aria, you're also a founder. After hearing Will's sharing, I'm really curious about your perspective about how AI and technology help with your business and education.
For my business, technology and AI has benefited me in various ways. One way technology and AI has helped me would be that it gave me easy access to meet with investors and also create a business plan and pitch deck. AI is developing so fast that all I had to do was just ask AI, such as ChatGPT, to give me a detailed outline of a business plan, copy that into another AI platform, such as presentation.ai, then the AI will just give me a detailed pitch deck. Then all I had to do was write a cold email to the VC investor with the pitch deck and business plan attached to it. AI has also prepared me for the pitch call itself, since I've never had such a meeting with a professional investor before. Even though my father already knows what these investors would be asking, he's very intentional about having us utilize all available technology with our own effort. In that sense, AI has been an amazing tool for us to educate ourselves in all sorts of areas we didn't even know existed before. So that has been really helpful. Second, it helps me run my business very well because a key part of our business is to ask professors or researchers about their research, but we have never had such a learning experience on topics such as single-cell genomics, applied mathematics, or political theory. So AI has been very helpful in drafting interview questions to ask professors, which makes the whole conversation more exciting. Also, it is also fun to watch these world-renowned professors sweating, trying to explain their complex research in a simple way, because our questions are very well-pointed and challenging questions. Last but not least, I also use technology in my own studies. I use several technology tools, such as Google Classroom for School, online courses through Center for Talented Youth at Johns Hopkins University, on Khan Academy's Conmingo for online tutoring, and test preps offered online. I also play chess online and even make music with my computer, which is also cool.
Wow. I think I really got lagged behind. I didn't know I can use AI to write in investment pitch. I think so many of the potential AI founders can really get a lot from your tips. This will save them big time. And Mina, I'm also curious about all your experience and what you are doing, what you guys are using AI at aspirational institution. And especially, I think education equality is really important for the development of the world.
Thank you for that. So as I was mentioning, we are trying to reach students in the last mile, and using sort of digital technology is going to be super important. Just to give a background on what the program itself is, it's a 9-week online program on leadership skills. So the idea is we identify these students anywhere in the world. It's essentially, they get to learn how to learn, and it raises their self-confidence. We connect them on a global platform. So now they are having opportunity for peer-to-peer learning. So someone from Mozambique, maybe in a Discord server, which is part of our program, with someone from Argentina, maybe Dhaka and Malaysia. And we give them prompts. So they watch certain videos that our faculty have designed. One session is around your own personal development. We use the Big 5 personality test, where students take 120 questions or so, and then they get a sense of what their personality is. Are you an introvert? Are you an extrovert? What are your strengths? The second piece is we've got the Harvard Business School Career Services. They designed 3 videos for our students. One, how to write a resume. The second, how do you prepare for a job interview? And third is, how do you network? Then when the students watch these videos, there are prompts. Then they're supposed to answer those questions and then come into Discord rooms where we take these large numbers of students, break them into 10, 15 groups, and they discuss and they talk to one another. So there's a lot of learning happening there. The second piece is synchronous master classes, and this is where our faculty, again, our program I failed to mention is free. So we don't charge anything to our students. The second piece is synchronous master classes, where we have reached out to our faculty who generously give 90 minutes of their time on any topic that they are expert in, and they speak to our students, and students just sign up. They have to take at least one master class, but we give them access to about 12 or 15. Once they complete that, they come to the final session of our program, which is the Aspire Horizons course designed and delivered by, again, 3 HBS professors, Professor Siddhal Neely, Tarun Khanna, and Karim Lakhani, where they each learn about leadership skills. And one is about your independent, your own, how do you as a leader function in your community, no matter where you are. The second piece Professor Khanna talks about, and this comes out of his own research and teaching, which is understanding contextual intelligence. So you may be in India, or you might be in Sao Paulo, and you have to understand if you're trying to identify a problem and come up with a solution, it's so important to know what your environment is. What is the institutional void that he talks about, which is what does the infrastructure look like? What are some of the socioeconomic conditions? So they get to learn about that. And then the third piece that Karim Lakhani educates our students is how do you use AI and the various generative tools that can help you in whatever problem you're trying to solve. So that's the whole curriculum. So where we end up using, as I mentioned, over these last 3 years, we received 200,000 applications. Obviously, we cannot read them all. So we use a lot of machine learning to help us identify who really meets the basic criteria, which is, are you currently enrolled in college? Are you 18 to 29 years of age? And do you come from a low-income, first-generation family to go to college? Once you meet that criteria, you come into our program. So that's one way we use. Then as I mentioned, when we give these students quizzes or assignments, we again use AI to help us identify how closely are they responding to the questions we've given them. And then the third thing we do is after they finish this basic Aspire Leaders program, we know that that's not enough. And we also know that they need to make a difference where they are. And we want to keep talent in their country. So what we do is we have what we call the extended leadership opportunities. And this is where students who complete all of the modules, we give them access to financial awards. So they can apply to us for small amounts of seed funding, and they will write a proposal that came out of the Aspire Horizons course. So again, we cannot read all. We got 5,000 applications, and they're all requesting funds, and our funds can go all the way up to $6,000. So we get, again, we use AI, and we give it prompts, and then based on that, we grade it. And what it's essentially doing, we're not eliminating the human intervention, but what it's doing is sifting through all of the, the applications we get, and then limits the number of human or what we have to read by ourselves and then make the decision. So that's another way that we're using AI. We also use AI in using Intercom, which answers questions so that we, again, don't have to answer. So, just this year we had about 15 or 17,000 queries, and 65% of those was answered by Intercom, which is the chat program. And where we're going sort of in the next year, and as we all know, technology is changing so rapidly. So challenge for us is going to be resources, financial resources, people who have data science background who can help us. I'd love to learn more about, the tutoring, because one of the other things we do is the mentorship program. So we're building regional mentorships for our students so that, again, there's human connection. It's not just all about online, because Coursera does it, Udemy, edX. There are all of these online, but what is unique about us is connecting to world-class faculty, peer-to-peer learning. And one of the challenges, the language, because right now all of it is in English. So I just want to briefly show one of the things Professor Lakhani's been working with. He's the director of DCube, which is a new lab started at the business school, Data digital and design, and they are helping us, look at sort of building his avatar. And I just had a quick sample that he shared with me, and I wanted to show it with you. And we're hoping that this will help us access more students.
Sure, let's watch.
我叫 Karim Lakhani，Gen AI 可以成为您的合作伙伴，为您带来灵感，超越您自己可能想到的。首先，让我们向 ChatGPT 征求关于我们要推出的前2款产品的意见。我之前做过一些产品研究，所以我讲从哪里开始。所以我们的建议将基于我们迄今为止所做的研究，让我们根据您迄今为止所做的工作，根据数据分析的趋势推荐我应该推出的前2款产品。
A couple more languages. I'll just show maybe just a prompt, just so you can see. It's just him, and he's just.
Hola, me llamo Karim Lakhani. Gen AI puede ser su socio para generar ideas inspiradas más allá de las que se le puedan ocurrir por su cuenta. Comencemos pidiendo a ChatGPT su opinión sobre los 2 primeros productos que lanzaremos. Anteriormente hice una investigación de productos, así que empezaré por ahí para que nuestras recomendaciones se basen en la investigación que hemos hecho hasta ahora. Sugerimos, teniendo en cuenta lo que ha hecho hasta ahora, recomiende los 2 primeros productos que debería lanzar en función de las tendencias en el análisis de datos.
All right, thank you so much.
Wow, this is very impressive. I saw so many people taking out their phones, taking pictures and videos. Actually, I want to ask a follow-up question on behalf of the students, especially those from low income, like first generation college students. Since AI is doing the first screening of the applications, like what's your advice for them to prepare for the application in the first place?
Yeah. So, the application actually, honestly, is very simple. And if they answer, like I mentioned, those 3 basic questions or 4, they pretty much get in. But I think the other question that would, where we imagine our students can learn from AI, as I was mentioning in the Aspire Horizons course, when they go through the 3 sections on leadership, contextual knowledge, and using AI and digital tools, at the end of that, the students are asked to design a project, like a capstone project, which they then present to us for awards if they want to receive funding. So the project has to take everything they learned in our course, and they have to go into their own community and find a problem, an intractable problem, and come up with a solution based on what they've learned. And this is where, as you were talking about, using it for presentations, project proposals, they're in a way presenting it to us as investors into their project. What I would encourage them to do, yes, use AI, and we all know it's a tool, it's a co-pilot. What's going to be super important is the kind of questions you're feeding it. And I think Ethan Mollick, who's another professor who's spoken to our students and one of the master classes talked about, is use it as a chain of commands when you're trying to find a project. So just asking one question and seeing what it generates is not sufficient. It's like if you're sitting in front of a teacher or your faculty or even your parent, and you're trying to get to the bottom of a question or trying to understand something, you're not satisfied with just one question. You have to have multiple questions. You've got to continue to ask better questions to then get to what the result is. And so we tell our students, because again, the issue is they'll just copy, and we can find out if they just put something in ChatGPT and got the response, and we can also tell them find out what's plagiarized. So they have to be smarter than what the tool they're using and be able to engage with it. And I think the other thing I would say, the second thing that's most important is you can't rely on it fully. The kind of knowledge you get by going and talking to people, like when we say go find a problem in your community, AI is not going to give you the kind of granular nuances in the problem you're looking for until you go talk to people. you're trying to solve a problem, for example, of clean drinking water in the slums or the favelas in Sao Paulo, you will not know why the water that the government is providing at the outskirts of the slum, by the time it reaches someone's home, is contaminated. ChatGPT is not going to give you that answer. You got to go there and talk to people and ask them, what was your behavior when you went to take water out of the tank? Did you put your dirty whatever, bucket or pitcher in it? Was your hand clean? If you don't have like running water, your hands are not sanitized, you are then contaminating all of the water. You would not know that until you go talk to people. So I think it's very important that you don't become a slave to AI.
Yeah, thank you for the sharing. I think I want to expand the topic a little bit because we've been talking about digital divide for decades, but now here's this AI divide. That's why it's like AI is so important, and that's why we should be cautious about how AI should be deployed. And since Will, your companies are like having students who are like across the world. Lynette, you are also teaching students across the world. Like, can you guys share how AI can help like narrow the AI gap?
For sure, I think AI is probably the most important catalyst to bridge the gap of education, whether it's in time, it's in terms of resources, it's the real technology behind that. For example, now in our platform we have students coming from 60 countries using our assistants on a daily basis. The reason they can do that is simply through the technology. Of course, the foundational model is the internet connectivities, right? And but after that, then those applications. And with our platform, each region of tutors and teachers can have their own regional specific contents in their learning environments. So that's one of the ways to deliver instant knowledge learning models instantaneously. So anybody can access those course-specific contents, quizzes, assessment tools at their fingertip. So I think we've had this internet for many years. It's already changing the game. But today with AI, it's gonna 10x of this. Okay, and that because this thing is changing every day, every hour, and what's going to change tomorrow, we don't even know. So I think this is the best way to equalize entire population of learning going forward.
Yeah, for sure. Actually, I'm asking because I just read a World Bank report the other day. It actually said that like 2/3 of the ChatGPT users are actually well-educated men. So I think with AI, there's definitely like an imbalanced use of AI. Using that in the right way and using it in an inclusive way will definitely help us to build education landscape in a more effective way. So Lynette, if you want to join, please let me know. But Mina,
Yes.
if you, yeah.
Thank you.
Feel
Yeah,
free to-
just to further contribute to what's been shared, I just think back to what Dr. King mentioned earlier, and then also what Mina shared in terms of the access piece. No matter how great, and we've already expressed or experienced, even with our younger scholars here with us today, how important AI is. It's an incredible tool, and yet the divide will continue until we actually shift our belief on who has access, and if it truly is like all lives matter, which means every person, rural community within, again, typically marginalized populations, our incarcerated population and others. The tools are there, and as was just shared in terms of like, we don't even know perhaps what tomorrow will bring, but ensuring that everyone has like that access and I would say like equal resources and support to further equip individuals, until that happens, like for real, not by just people sort of talking about it or us saying, okay, well, additional monies has been there. Again, this is why the ACLU and like other organizations have had to get involved to really push this. But until that happens, then there will, in the same way it's growing exponentially, the divide will continue to be an exponential divide. And so my hope is that, everyone will be able to tap in. And I mean, Mina just gave some like realistic numbers of like you have thousands of applicants who even know about this resource, and yet we know we have billions of folks out there who may not even be aware of or exposed to. So I think just ensuring that everyone, to the extent possible, is aware of it and has the access and support, I think it'll be a great thing for everyone.
Yeah, thank you, Lynette, for your sharing. I want to pivot a little bit to the business side of things because there are 3 founders in the education industry here. And Ariel, maybe I'll start from you. Like, what advice would you give to other people if they have an idea to start a business?
I would have 2 pieces of advice to give to other people who are thinking of becoming entrepreneurs like me. One is that you need to know how to be able to use technology, because if you don't know how to use technology, all this wonderful technology and AI will be meaningless. You would be struggling very hard to even come up with a business plan or pitch deck, or even be able to find a clear and steady way to make revenue. So that is definitely one piece of advice I would give. A second piece of advice would be to always have growth mindset and grit, because these are famous concepts developed by Carol Dweck at the Stanford University and Angela Duckworth at the University of Pennsylvania. These concepts came in really handy every time I get rejection emails from investors or when professors decline to meet with me. I was at first a little disappointed, and I almost took it as a sign that I might fail. But I just kept trying and trying until I got a positive response and kept building on it. As a result, I even have some VCs who are interested in investing about $1 million in me.
Cool. Will, do you have any comment on that?
I have to learn from Ariel now. It's my new mentor, tutor.
Yeah, because so many people might see the opportunities in AI, especially in the education industry, just like Matt shared earlier about the using gamification to promote engagement in AI. Like if there's other like potential entrepreneurs here and they want to get advice into AI education entrepreneurship, like what's your like maybe 1 or 2 line advice to them?
I think I would say AI is here to stay, and we need to look at the positive sides. There is some negative sides, yes, but overall, look at the span of history. When we introduced calculators back then, the people are afraid, but now calculators not a thing. AI is the same thing. Will continue to grow, and I encourage everyone to really learn its foundation. And for example, we'll say this, right? And now the answer is coming for free almost. You can ask any questions for free. But now the question is, how you come up with that question? So we still need to encourage everyone to learn the foundational ideas, keep this critical thinking. And I highly encourage everyone to think this through, whether you're the parents, you're the educators, the students. Lifelong learning is always a thing, especially true in this AI age, because next day is a new day. That's I want to say that. Keep learning.
Sure. Mina, you're also the CEO.
Yeah.
Yeah. What's your advice?
I agree with, I agree And, Ariel very nicely said the growth mindset and technology, and yes, they're here to stay. I would add a couple other things that we've seen as a startup. One is to not be attached to your idea. If it's not working, be okay with letting go and pivot. So being sort of very agile is going to be an important piece if you're starting a company, no matter, how big or small it is. And the second thing, from my own personal experience, and I've had, 30 years of work experience, I was an architect for a while, and then I sort of transitioned into education. And all along, I've always found collaboration has been super important to me. I always learn from, no matter how much experience you have, how old you are, or what background you come from, there's something to learn. And the more you can bring in diverse thinking, diverse mindsets, whatever you're trying to solve is going to be, you come up with richer questions and you have a better solution.
Thanks. We've covered a lot of important aspects of AI education here, like the business side, the ethical side, like AI inequality. Now, the time is up, but I want to ask one final question. It's like, if there's only one key takeaway you want the audience to remember, can you give us one line key takeaway to the audience here? Thank you. Maybe Will, you can start.
Okay. Embrace AI and let it be the left and right wings, okay? And it will help you in any shape or form in the future, okay?
Ariel?
One key takeaway would be that you need to be able to clearly discern whether technology and AI is helping you or harming you, because since we all have the same amount of time each day, you have to be able to know whether you're wasting about your whole life with it, or you're using your time wisely and you might also become successful.
I think for me, it's learning. No matter how old you are or how young you are, you're constantly going to be learning and not be attached to feeling that I know it.
Lynette?
I would say let's further empower our traditionally disempowered folks with the power of AI and what that can do for global collaboration.
Cool. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jen. Thanks for the exciting panel that you have provided us. And thank you so much, everyone, for your wonderful presentation. And thank you, Ariel, for spreading the anxiety that we all have now. I think that he definitely did a great job. And well, I think actually, Elijah, we might need you to do another keynote to really stress on how you are doing the parenting education. Like this is, I think everyone was shocked with Ariel's presentation. So thanks again for the anxiety that you spread around. Next, we're going to jump to our final panel, which will be led by one of our representative from NYU, a good friend, and also a social media influencer. So Ethan, welcome to the stage and welcome the young entrepreneurs to join you.
All right, hello everyone. My name is Ethan and I just graduated from NYU, and I'm also a young leader for FWE, and I will be hosting this panel too, focused on younger generation leaders together with their thoughts on AI and innovation. So now let's welcome our speakers. So I want to start off by thanking everyone for being here. It's been a long day, but it's a very interesting panel around education. So The main topic for our panel is next generation and young leaders in innovative education. So all of us actually have some sort of experience around AI, technology, with the intersection with education, since we're all students, right? So now let's start off with some brief introductions. So first on my left is Frank Zhou. He is also the president for Harvard College China Forum, one of our co-hosts today. And I also want to sincerely thank him, and let's give him a round of applause for putting this all together.
There's a terrific team behind all of this who's worked tirelessly. So thank you to them as well.
So the second one on my left is Sophia Schleicher. She is a project coordinator at DKP, Civil Learning Institute, and Project Zero at Harvard. And you can give a little bit of more introduction about yourself.
Sure. So thank you for the invitation, and thank you to Dr. Cheng really for organizing all of this. I graduated from the Harvard Graduate School of Education last year from the Master's in Learning Design, Innovation and Technology, and I have some background in neuroscience before this. So I did my bachelor in England. And yeah, happy to be with all of you today and expand some thoughts.
So our third speaker is Kira Mo, who is also currently an undergraduate senior here at Harvard College. She is the co-president for WeCode, the largest women pre-professional coding student organization. And she also has done a lot of interesting stuff in the intersection between coding, education, and AI. So you can give a little bit more about yourself. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. Really, again, honored to be here. Thank you so much to the organizers. I am a senior at the college, and WeCode is the largest woman in computer science, woman in engineering conference in the world, and we're expanding to be a digital platform for community as well. So we're all about that mission. On campus, I'm also lucky enough to help teach CS50, one of the head teaching fellows. Yeah.
Thank you, Kira. And I also want to introduce Ke Hangzhu, right? And he is a PhD candidate at Harvard, also a research fellow at MIT Sloan. One thing that's super interesting about him is he recently published a paper, and his paper is actually went viral on the internet, getting reposted by people like Paul Graham from Y Combinator, from many very prestigious investors, entrepreneurs. So, Mike is to you.
Thank you. Thank you, Ethan, for the kind introduction, and thanks for the organizer of this amazing conference. So my name is Ke Hang, and I'm a PhD candidate in Harvard, and my major is physics and computer science. And also I'm a research fellow in MIT Sloan Business School. And so thanks, Ethan, for mentioning that. We recently published a paper called Automate Social Science, where we use language model both as scientists to have hypotheses, design experiments, and as a meanwhile also act as a participant, human subjects, in this kind of new game or mechanism. So basically, we want to use language models to automate away the two major roles in social science study. One of scientists, the other is human or subjects. And this, as Ethan said, is a major hit, and we're glad to just introduce it to you, hopefully today.
Awesome, thank you. And lastly is Frank, and I want to give the mic back to him to talk a little bit more about himself.
Thank you so much. It's been such fun putting together the event today with the support from Forum for World Education and the Bach Family Foundation and Trust, so thank you so much for joining us. The Harvard College China Forum is the world's largest student-run conference focused on China and US-China relations. We're hosted on Harvard's campus every April, and it's our pleasure to be able to support and co-host this event today. On campus, in addition to the work that I do with the China Forum, I'm also the digital strategist for the Harvard Crimson, which is our student newspaper and the oldest collegiate student newspaper in the United States. I lead our audience engagement, social media, and newsletter teams. We have a following of about 180,000 across all platforms and receive about 18 million site visits a year. So a lot of that is the sort of digital front of how do we manage all of that and how do we continue to grow it in a world that is increasingly AI driven.
Thank you, Frank. We have some wonderful young leaders here on our panel, and I can't wait to start it. So let me see a quick show of hands. How many people in this room have studied abroad or in a totally different culture other than the United States in the past?
It's like almost everyone.
Yes, almost like everyone. Awesome. Then we'll make this panel actually very interactive because we're going to start by talking about the past experiences because all of our panelists actually have some sort of intercultural, cross-cultural, or international experiences. So let's start with our first question for Sophia. You actually have a very interesting experience to not only study, but to teach in China. So how does that shape your perspective, your learning, as well as how does it sort of shape your ideologies?
Well, thank you for your question, first of all. I think that actually my passion for cross-cultural education has risen from a certain sense of frustration at the beginning. I was introduced to different cultures and taught about different countries in high school. But I had the sense that it was introduced through a certain lens and integrating a certain degree of biases and of stereotypes. And I think that coupled to that, my trait of character of constantly seeking for contradictory evidence, this brought me to really want to explore and deeply understand a culture that I knew nothing else about than what I thought were stereotypes. And so when I finished high school, I was 17 and decided to devote some time to travel to China, as you were mentioning, Ethan. And I went there to teach ballet in a primary school. And during that time, I was really focused on being completely immersed in the culture. So experiencing it more than analyzing it or observing it from the outside. So I was living with a Chinese family who was not speaking a word of English, and I was not speaking a word of Chinese at the beginning. So it was very interesting. And I was teaching in this primary school, so surrounded by Chinese colleagues and teaching to Chinese students. So it was really this intention to be completely immersed in the culture. And when I look back at it through the lens of the work I'm doing now on global competence, I actually believe that it's this opportunity of investigating and appreciating a culture from the inside and from the eyes of the people who embody each culture that really not only allowed me to create very strong bonds with the local community, but also to create a more authentic understanding, I believe, of the culture and of the customs there. And so I believe that actually it embraces also very much what Matt was saying at the very beginning of the conference. This own experience and this own cross-cultural bonds I created then shaped my passion and my work now in global competence.
Wow, that's a wonderful response. Thank you. And also, Frank, there's one thing that's very interesting about your background is you actually moved 11 times across different schools, cities, countries, etc., right? And you also have spent time in both the public and private school education system. So can you talk a little bit more about how has this like bicultural and multilateral education experience shaped your perspective on education innovation?
Of course. As you can imagine, most of my childhood and young adult life was spent with more cardboard boxes in our rooms than actual mattresses. So, it's very much, the moving has its pluses and minuses. I've gone to public school for 8 to 9 years in the United States, for 1 year in China, in a public school that's sort of on the outskirts of Hangzhou, about a 3-hour drive from the center of the city. I've also gone to public schools in North Carolina, New Hampshire, Texas, you name it. And of course, entered private school, both Harvard as a private university and private school in Massachusetts for a piece of my high school as well. So a lot of that feels intensely sort of disjoint, right? You see pockets of educational values, educational institutions that have vastly different levels of resources. I remember being a 10th grader at a private school, newly in the private school system, and watching back to a school board meeting at my school district in New Hampshire, and seeing very much my principal, who I treated as a figure of authority, on the verge of tears as he was advocating for teachers to be able to, one, retain them, and two, teach with digital learning tools and digital textbooks that they desperately needed, right? And I was sitting there at a high school that had 200 electives, that had $1 billion endowment, and that was a world away from a school that I just attended just the year prior. And so, if nothing else, seeing the vast differences in educational resources across the United States and within China has sort of shifted and animated the work that I try to do in China Forum as well, right? So much of it is about bridging conversations that otherwise would never happen, especially in an environment that's increasingly tense. And part of it is about reconciling the disjointedness that I've felt throughout my educational experiences and trying to bridge some of those gaps one conversation at a time.
Well, this is an amazing thing that you're doing right now to bridge those gaps to different forums, to the work that you do, and potentially we can't wait to see more in the future. Yeah. And now let's move on to Kira. So we have been talking about geographic location, diversity in terms of where you move around, like Frank. But now we want to talk a little bit about interdisciplinariness, right? So Kira led the largest student-run women coding club here at Harvard College. But meanwhile, she spent a lot of time in theater and arts. So can you talk about your personal journey of how it led you to co-lead WeCode and engage in fields like theater, poetry, and robotics?
Of course. I love the arts. I love being in the theater and poetry. And so it was really more of the kind of magnetic field of creating and looking at a canvas, looking at a piece of paper and thinking, what can I do here? How can I create and really push those boundaries in my own practice, but also in collaboration with creatives everywhere. And so that practice, that experience really does motivate my work in technical teams. At the same time, I'm really interested in robotics, in engineering, and also widening the access and inclusion to those spaces. When I work with teams and work with people, I realize then that it is not, perhaps just the skills or the experiences that we embody, but also the voice and the vision and the style. Working with people in, say, theater to bring a show to life, to encounter an audience and make sure that every single person in the seat doesn't see actually just one story or one contribution, but also just a world of different perspectives, encountering different perspectives. And so that's kind of an abstract mission that I was really excited to apply to, say, the satellite team here, which is building an engineering CubeSat to send to space, but also WeCode, where we're not only in Harvard College, actually, but also encountering 180 colleges across the world. We're an international community, and being able to lift everyone's voices up, women in tech, and really have stories resound and connect to say, you have a space in tech, have a path here, and can forge your own identity and your own voice through this is really quite important to us. Yeah.
Well, that's very interesting. Forging your identities through coding. Wow. And which sort of leads to our next question for our Kehang, right?
Yep.
And so you do a lot of really advanced research around LLM.
Not advanced. It's more very popular.
But it's good enough. And but
Viral research, if not advanced.
Yeah. So your research focuses on the innovative use of LLMs. So can you share about your personal journey and what led you to explore using large language model agents as proxies for human beings?
Yeah. So it's a really good question. When ChatGPT came out, like earlier last year, we are all use it as like a chatbot. It's like question answering type. Like I have a coding question, I have like some math question, and I type in the question. It gives me the answer. But when it comes out to us as like, research fellows in business school, we view it as, oh, wow, that's a testing tool, testing bed for a lot of interesting things. Imagine tomorrow you have like a very important conversation with your client, or you have a very important conversation with your kid about whether we should use computer or make it or play games tomorrow. Usually you will practice in your head, for a few times, like what should I say, and you can only imagine in your mind. You cannot practice it. You cannot grab your son, your client to the background. Hey, let's have a practice, because once you did, that changed everything. Like the memory is in their mind. You cannot remove it. If you perform really, really bad, then the consequences are there. However, as research fellows in MIT B School, I think maybe it's a chance to have a real practice. You can you can prompt the language model, the ChatGPT, to be, that person, the client, your child, or someone you will have conversation with. And instead, you can play it multiple times. Even if you just, did one time really bad, you can just, hey, let's start over. But you cannot talk to a guy, hey, we have a really bad time simulating this. Please forget about this. Delete your memory. Let's start over. So I think this is a core idea between, in our highly, as Ethan said, get really popular in Twitter. We treat this language model as people, so they can play, simulate a lot of the times, and instead of we grabbing real people to run real experiments.
That's fantastic. So Frank, how have you seen those real advancement in LLM, as well as other learning tool that, like Kira that mentioned, have impacted students here at Harvard, since you're a current student?
Sure. I mean, AI integration has cut up and down our curriculum, and both into my personal life and in terms of my school life. For one thing, half of the people that I live with right now are, doing LLM research. I study the humanities, and I'm in a blocking group that is very much interested in artificial intelligence. But we also see this throughout the curriculum. Every Harvard undergraduate student needs to take some variant of an expository writing course that treats you to understanding the basics of academic writing. And one of the most popular courses within that structure is XPOS 20. Just this fall, XPOS 20 has has enabled students to use chat models as a sort of point-counterpoint system, offering up counter-arguments to challenge their sort of established theses and their lines of argument, offering up opportunities to play devil's advocate, if nothing else. And this is an example of precisely the educational implementation that Stu was mentioning earlier in our programming today, right? That it's increasingly critical to acknowledge and embrace the use of AI in education and treat it as a constructive tool. The Harvard Medical School has piloted an AI in healthcare month-long course that is the first of its kind at any medical school. The Harvard Faculty of Arts and Sciences, by far the university's most powerful school, has endowed a professorship in AI and created a sort of fund for AI-powered research. You see the university taking dramatic steps to do this, and you see student newspapers like the Harvard Crimson that are sort of following this at every step of the way, reporting on it and sort of keeping track of how we're moving forth in the world. So much of the work that Harvard is doing nowadays is heavily focused on how do we bridge the gap and the sort of lack of educational opportunities there. And much of the work that we continue to watch is the university investing ever more money, resources, time, and personnel into doing just that. So it manifests not just in our baseline courses, but also in the research that students will self-select to do, and also in the sort of types of conversations that you hear in a soft way around campus. AI is everywhere, and we feel it at an intensely academically researched level. We feel it in conversations with our dorm mates before bed, and we hear it in our classrooms every day.
it seems like AI is a fantastic tool to not only improve education, but also brings education equality as well as high quality education to previously uncovered areas, right? Which sort of leads to my next question to Sophia. So what innovative approach have you seen or implemented that enhance learning experiences on a global scale?
Well, I think the fascinating but also quite worrying fact is that global education, it's not a new construct. I mean, it has been around since the 50s with the aim to reform education beyond the national boundaries with the national and worldwide tensions at that time. But I mean, it really is nothing new as a concept, but the opportunities to address it, of course, have been developed immensely with the rise of new technologies and of new pedagogical tools. I think what is important is also to frame what global education is and what global competence is. And I always like to use the framework used by the Asia Society, which defines a global competence as appreciation for diversity, cultural understanding, global knowledge, and global engagement. And I think that when one takes those constructs, one can see how technologies can help not only build the knowledge-based understanding at a global scale, but also the opportunities to engage with each other. And I think that virtual exchanges are a perfect example of this, allowing not only to create this direct exchange that allows to transfer information in a very direct and in a very authentic way, but also to take part in this action-taking that is an aspect of global education. So I think that virtual exchanges is one of the perfect examples that highlights these new technologies. But I think I also want to mention that if one looks at it through a more, I wouldn't say pessimistic, maybe a more realistic point of view, there is always a dual consequence in the use of these technologies, and it's really important to take it into account when designing the learning opportunities.
Thank you. And one thing that Dr. Davis mentioned in her opening speech is that AI is for all and AI is for good, right? Which sort of leads to my next question for Kira. So through WeCode, you really focus a lot on increasing diversity in tech as well as availability in tech, right? So what innovative strategies are you implementing to enhance the learning and lower the access of barrier? Because that's also what is Mass doing regarding gamification, is to lower the access of barrier. So can you talk more about that? Thank you.
Yeah. I mean, we see AI's impact everywhere, and it's going to continue proliferating. The question is not just the nature of AI, but the people who design it. It has impacted everyone, very diverse, but do the people who are designing it, who are impacting it, who have a voice and have a decision in tech the same? And currently it is not. Women are representing only 11% of decision-making, executive positions in tech, and even lower for women of color. And WeCode is essentially a conference in a space trying to provide that network of connectivity so that our attendees, as well as the people who are able to follow us and the resources that we provide, can actually see themselves first flourish in tech, but also be able to connect with existing professionals, women in tech, and really continue to shape the world out there. And so for the ways that we have been implementing this, we've actually been here for 11 years, and we've been constructing this 2-day conference around February. But a way of extending this, especially using AI and the tools, the internet and the social media, is to really reach out to women and professionals out there and create this online community year-round, inviting international students everywhere to speak and to connect about their experiences, to offer each other resources and lift each other up. So we're launching a podcast, as well as a lot of resources online, as well as open and more barrier, essentially lowering the barrier for our virtual offerings as well. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. And Kehang, In your view, what are the innovative use of language model that could transform education beyond their current role as just assistant as well as the interactive like practice agents?
Oh yeah. It's a very good question. So I mean, I think the vice president of Harvard showed a lot of use case. As we see previously, like how ChatGPT or these language models help Harvard students. It's basically building a lot like assistant answering questions, and it can be personalized. That's definitely one big usage. A lot of Harvard courses are adopting that. But one of the things I'm interested in is how to create like a interactive learning environment for students, because a lot of experience lessons comes from people's feedback, like in the interplay between peoples. And that's why you can take a lot of free courses in Coursera, like about coding, about this kind of knowledge, but you cannot take business school courses like negotiation, like free. You're gonna pay like several $1,000s to attend some business school, and once you check open online, you can find out there's not very much free resources on business school courses. Of course, I think for us, we're trying to democratize these kind of business school type courses by creating AI agents that can interactively play with you this type of management games, leadership, even negotiation. So once you want to encounter, you want to practice your critical abilities like leadership and having critical conversations with your employees, you can play it with some kind of language model agents instead of like, playing with your classmates, pretending to be that, employer. So my viewpoint is really like taking language model agent, playing some kind of roles. This can be huge. And after playing that kind of role, you can get feedbacks, real-time feedbacks from this, instead of like people giving you a report and you have to read it, digest yourself.
Thank you. And one thing that we are all worried about AI is that it may be dangerous because a lot of it really depends on the input together with availability, right? So Sophia, you mentioned the dual consequence of AI in education. So how do you think we can navigate the balance between its benefits and potential downsides?
Yeah, well, I think that humans have always been better at inventing new tools than at using them wisely. But never before had it had such dire consequences on the real world. Of course, these are amazing accelerators and great amplifiers, but they amplify good practices and good ideas as much as they do with bad practices and bad ideas. And we had several examples of this. I mean, these tools can be a great opportunity to really empower teaching and make it more inclusive by making learning opportunities more accessible and more targeted to the needs of different learners. But the pandemic has also shown us how much the inequity can be raised in these situations. On the other hand, it can help super empower teachers to become really the designers of innovative learning experiences, but it can also disempower them to become more passive users of scripted lessons plans and of algorithms they no longer understand. And coming back to the theme of global education, it can help us surpass the barriers that are maybe the linguistic, the cultural, and the geographical barriers, but it can also sort us into echo chambers and insulate us from divergent thinking. So in that sense, I think it's really important that these tools are used with ethical and guidelines of safety, equity, and trust, and that we embrace these tools as transformative forces, yes, but also keeping in mind the human values that are so critical in the educational sphere, as well as the sensitivities and pedagogies that have been developed.
Thank you, Sophia. And due to time constraint, I think we'll do one last question. And after the last question, we'll open the floor up to maybe 1 or 2 Q&A because I think we have less than 10 minutes left. So yeah, so let's go ahead with our last question to Frank. So what challenges do you foresee in integrating AI into global education, and how can you address them based on your perspective?
For sure. I mean, Sophia's hit on some critical points there, right, about the both the tremendous potential and the tremendous downsides of potential sort of implementation in education. And we've seen today, the demonstrations from the Aspire Institute as an example of a powerful language learning tool that can cut across cultures, essentially sort of dramatically reduce the impediments of curricula that otherwise wouldn't be available in other languages. I spent much of my time in high school doing translation work for spaces like the UN and others who generally needed translators and found them in such short supply precisely because the sort of language barriers are so pressing, right? So AI has a potential sort of to bridge some of those gaps. In terms of dangers and challenges, I think one thing that we'll all have to contend with is how does it sort of shift student outcomes and the ways that students think about what curricula they pursue, what majors they pursue, and how they go about doing it. I don't know a single CS major right now who is studying CS at a rigorous, deep, thoughtful level who is not deeply afraid that they're going to become obsolete the moment they graduate. And that is a potential sort of huge huge point of anxiety for a lot of students as they head out into the job market and into the world. So we've seen folks like Matt who are trying to bridge the gap in earlier age groups. We've seen folks like the Forum on World Education who are trying to platform this dialogue early on. We've seen sort of forums and platforms at the student level, like Kira is doing at WeCode, to try to sort of make the supply chain more complete as we go. So much of it is going to come in the face of dramatic dangers, and if nothing else, it sort of is a call to action for us to continue our work in a steadfast way.
Thank you, Frank. And let's open up some questions for the floor. You can just raise your hand. Any questions for our panelists?
Or head shakes then.
All right, I'll pass the mic up.
Yeah. So first of all, thank you very much for organizing this event. So it's very informative and educational. I'm a lifelong learner. I'm also a lifelong educator. So that's why I came here to hear our younger generations, how they think about AI and how AI could impact our education. This is also my passion. So to start off, what is AI? So what I heard from today is mainly natural language processing and using AI as an agent to provide real-time feedback. So what AI could look like in addition to these two models? So this is one thing that I'm very, very curious to hear from the panelists.
Sure. Anybody want to take this question? I feel like Kira, Kahan, Frank, you guys can all take it, right?
Close my microphone. It's back up. Yeah, I think ever since OpenAI released ChatGPT, right, we now define AI as that experience of a user and an AI, an LLM, right, a large language model kind of speaking to each other, providing that experience. But previously, and now I think the definition does expand to machine learning as well, just the simple ability of processing large amounts of data and being able to, glean patterns that could really help increase not just a person, a user, and a chatbot, but also a lot of the kind of data that we have to process everywhere. As to how it will help kind of a educational or a learning standpoint, I wonder if, in addition to just something to speak to, something to provide text for, it will also enable us to really quickly get towards the creative stage immediately. In in the example of coding, right? Before it was very technical. I think Frank mentioned that the current training for coding or software engineers has to do with optimizing algorithms and being able to really understand every single line of code. Perhaps AI can widen the scope, include more people and more people's visions towards tech, and really enable them to immediately find that vision and really expedite that into reality. But then there are also quite a lot of risks, such as reducing cognitive load and reducing that essential friction that we all need in order to learn something. Yeah, I think it's an ongoing conversation. Those are my initial thoughts.
Thank you, Kira. So is there any more questions in the stands?
This is a question to Sophia. How do you envision global collaboration shaping the future of education in the context of AI advancement?
Well, I think that first of all, if it's considered with ethical guidelines, once again, and standards of equity, trust, and safety, these three parts, I think that it can be a huge way to really surpass the boundaries that may be linguistic, geographical, and also monetary boundaries and barriers that are present to the establishment of global education. I also believe that actually global doesn't need to be to the other side of the globe. I mean, it can be at a very local level, and it can be intercultural within the interpersonal relationships. It can be global within the local dynamics and the local impacts. So maybe also viewing innovation within the local to allow the global could be a way to reshape and to facilitate the implementation of global education.
Thank you. Thank you, Sophia. I think we're running out of time, but I want to thank our panelists for this amazing panel, for sharing your perspective from the young leaders' perspective, as well as from current students. And as Dr. Davis said, AI is for all, and AI is for good. So AI can be a very, very powerful tool if we use it correctly. And the right way to do it is actually to learn about science and technology, because AI is born from science and technology. So if we can get that perspective, we can really integrate and to understand its potential, both the downside and the good side, and how to maximize it as well as how to fully utilize it to maximize our own usage efficiency. Like what our youngest panelist said, right? We should use it as a tool to help ourselves. So this concludes our second panel. And I also want to give a big round of applause not only for our panelists, but also for our audience. And we're going to pass the mic back to Angel, our main moderator. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Ethan. Thank you, all the panelists. I think you guys have done a great job, and especially Frank, thank you for running around and also being able to exchange your intellectuals with us. So finally, we will conclude. Thank you. We will conclude with the summary address by our dearest Arnie Karajian. So she is the Vice President at Forum for World Education, at the same time the Senior Director at HBS. So Arnie, the floor is yours. Now you need to address to our audience of this amazing.
Thank you, Angel. Hi, everyone. My name is Ani Karajian, and I think I have the most difficult job in 5 minutes capturing all the learnings that we heard today. But as I think about the presenters, the panelists, one thing that really, really is resonating with me today, which is AI is important, education is important, because we all know that today's students will drive tomorrow's economy. The health of the economy will depend on the generation that is studying. What can we do in our organizations such as FWE or at our university or on companies to enable our students to thrive
and for education to be relevant. So I think when we step away from tonight, this afternoon, we should focus on human-centric AI education. I think we have to remember that we, as human beings, have a role to play. Machine learning is key. It will enable us deeper, further, faster. But at the end of the day, we're teaching students, we are teaching executives, we are driving our future economies. What takeaway we each have is key, and I'm sure it's very different depending on where you are sitting. If you're starting a company, you need different skills, but when you ask entrepreneurs what they need a team that can work together, that can collaborate, that can create, collaborate, and enable each other. Yes, we have the technology, and we will embrace it in the US and other developed economies. But when we heard Mina talking about making education accessible, I've got news for all of you. If you're sitting in Africa and you don't have power, unless you have solar panels, you don't have access to AI technology and the education that is so readily available to all of us. As we pause, reflect, one of the questions I like to ask each of you is, what will you do to enable others, leveraging AI, leveraging our schools, and leveraging our resources? Having the resources we heard about today is a gift. How do you pay it forward? Because when we educate one, we lift more than one and go back to the basics. We've all been enamored with ChatGPT since it launched. We've all embraced it. But many of you in this room will tell me machine learning and this technology has been readily available. And it took just ChatGPT to make all of us sit up straight and say, yeah, this is important. But with AI, with all the technology, there is the positive side and there's the dark side. And we need to be able to decipher what is AI for good and what it is not. So I leave you with no answers. I think we all need to remain curious. We need to enable our students at every level. At every level, we need to be curious, lifelong learners. And if we're privileged enough to be sitting here at Harvard or Penn or any other top-tier university, or sitting at companies that have the ability to lift their local communities, I challenge you to find ways to do that. Because together, we're going to make a difference. Together, technology could help us. But just don't think about self, lift more than what you see in your immediate radar. So for us, the takeaway, really basic. Education is key. We can change people's lives. Technology is a facilitator, and you all hold the power to that. So start a company, but don't think about how to make a lot of money with that company, but think about how much good you do. If you do good for community and your neighbors, you're going to do very well in the company. So challenge yourself to push, challenge yourself to explore what, if we have the resources here, is there a community nearby, let's say in Cambridge, that is not doing well, that you can help? That's the challenge that I would like to put for all of us in this room. You are very well placed if you're sitting here, but what can you do with the resources that we have, with the AI capabilities and the platform for content that Mina talked about? All of us can access content because we have the basics. Please think about ways how you can lift others in the community. Because at Forum for World Education, We know we need to do things to lift society. We need to enable our students across the globe. And my challenge question to you is, what are you going to do to help us to do that? Leverage your passion. If you have knowledge and you can transfer that, do that. If you can join any of, We Code, any of these organizations to support them, please do. Because again, education, we've all benefited. If we came from abroad, we benefited from the access to technology and education. Pay it forward is my message. I want to thank all of you for coming. I know it's a long afternoon, but you're all amazing. Thanks for supporting us, and stay in touch. And if you'd like to help us at Forum for World Education to have more impact, please get in touch and help us out. So thank you all. Thanks.
Thank you, Arnie, again, and thanks again to all the audience. I'm sure this is a great summary, and thank you again all for participating today. We hope that it has been an inspiring afternoon and also a little bit of pressure because, we see how the younger generation is catching up. So work harder, everyone. All right, thank you again for participating, and welcome to see you again at Harvard and Forum for World Education. Yeah, can the remaining audience join us to the front to have a group photo? We would love to document this moment together. Please join us in the front for a group photo. Please, all the audience, if you can, come forward and join us for a group photo. Thank you. Please come to the front and join for a wonderful group photo. Yeah. Come. Please, please, please. Please come to the front. We will take a group photo together. Oh my God. Good to see you. Yes. Please join to the front. Hi, good to see you. Go. Don't be shy.